Hello, and welcome to Sprangboro Sessions,
Woo! Woo!
and there it is. How you guys doing today?
Outstanding.
Today's what? February 21st, 2021. Wow,
That it
here we
that it
are.
is.
We're on episode like, I don't know, 4 or something.
Is it really the 21st? Oh shit.
Yeah,
22121? Nice.
22121,
hmm
bro.
For all those
Well,
number freaks out there, there you go.
speaking of number freaks, let's get right down to the business here. So this video you posted about low latency trading, is that the correct answer? I had it pulled up.
Yeah, high frequency trading.
High frequency, yes, yes. So, what an interesting topic. Again, you guys know I don't normally get into that kind of stuff, but because you tagged us and you want us to listen to it and watch it, I did, and I learned some very interesting facts about the stock market that I did not know. Let alone anything, because I know absolutely nothing about the stock market except for a bunch of people invest. I did not realize there were servers involved, which obviously makes sense, with the way that they do with fiber optic cables and all that kind of stuff. Wow, there's a lot. The way that those computers are generating and they're going through the algorithms of all the articles that it's processing in split seconds. It's mind-boggling to me. So, what what is it that video, in sense, that you should want to share with us? What was it that you wanted to see that we got out of it or not? I'm curious of the call out.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it was just more of like I wanted you guys to have a little bit of knowledge as to what I was gonna go down the rabbit hole with, because
Nice.
man, have I been going down the rabbit hole, and it's pretty wild. The GameStop story that broke what about two and a
Now,
half weeks ago now.
let me enter, while we're going along. I might have some questions. So with the exact thing about the GameStop. So I still don't comprehend because I haven't gone down the rabbit hole too much on that. I just know it was a thing that happened. I know that somehow the GameStop, their shares were sold at really cheap and that they made a lot of money. I still don't know how that happened, um, or any of that moving forward with the conversation.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can just give you the rundown on what happened.
I'd like that,
Um,
please.
yeah, so to give you a little frame of reference, a good return on a stock, if you're investing in a stock, would be 10% in a matter of a year. So what that means is if you invested in the stock, you bought the stock for $100, say you bought, one share. We'll make it super easy. You bought one share at $100. 10% return over a year would mean that that share is worth $110
in a
after a
year.
year. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's what a 10% return would be, and that's considered good.
Yeah.
It's typically it's kind of like your gauge of whether or not a stock is doing good. And it's typically for people that invest in the stock market, meaning they're not just trying to buy and sell and make a quick buck, but actually put money into it and want to see that money grow. Um, that's kind of the standard for what's most common for long-term growth, which is an index fund. Index fund is
Mhm.
basically um, a fund comprised of a bunch of different types of stocks that are well
There-
diversified to handle any type of market condition, whether the market's going up, the market's going down, whatever the case may be. Index funds will always continue to rise up, and it's typically it rises up with with the entire market, and again, it's expected to be about 10%.
Under normal circumstances,
Right,
if you have
right.
like stock market crashes, index funds don't protect you against those.
They do. So a
Really?
big
I
part,
th-
yeah, so a
Oh,
big part
okay.
of index, you're not going to do as well, but
No, yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're
Okay.
they're not going to tank compared to just a regular stock because of the fact
Yeah,
that
you're
they're
spread out.
diversified, because they're compromised of different types of investments. And the reason that index funds typically perform decent or better than most in a down market is because they have hedge funds included in it. Hedge funds, um, the whole purpose of the hedge fund is just to really to act as a buffer, to minimize that type of risk. As you know, as the market goes down, uh, you're not gonna be crushed as much as everybody else is
So
going to
it's like a
be.
security blanket for the financial stability of it.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. That's a great way of thinking it. And obviously, things have been down since COVID has started. The economy, the majority of the economy has been seeing, you know, a downturn. And when we look at what the economy is made up of, uh, numerous things. So it's more than just the stock market. It's, people's wages, how much people are buying, how much businesses are spending, how much they're investing in new factories or whatever. So basically, like, how much money is being transferred between different entities, and how much is overall wealth increasing over time. Um, so to go back to that 10%, so to give you some indication as to how crazy the GameStop thing was, uh, it saw an increase. I think it was of 1,800% in the matter of 3 days.
But what made that happen? Was it like a business type of a thing that changed their model? That's what I'm curious of the back end of that. Like what spiked it?
Yeah, yeah. So the question is, how the hell does something like that happen? How do you get into it and make an 1,800% increase? But so to go back to the initial example, if I were to invest $100 in a stock, or bought one share and it was worth $100, if it's on 1,800% increase, I don't even know what that is. I mean,
It went
you're
from
making,
about $4 a share to about $400 a share,
But
yeah, yeah,
what
in
my
in just a few weeks. The reason it did
mhm.
was because there were people on the website Wall Street Bets that saw um, that hedge funds were short selling stocks, which is the opposite of what you do when you actually invest.
And that
So
becomes like
when
a
you
red
would,
flag
well,
for anybody
they saw what was
that's into
happening, and
it.
they realized that they could take advantage of it. They could make money off of it because they could hold on to the stocks that they bought from these hedge funds. So these hedge funds were buying stocks at a lower price of $4 a share. They were hoping that they would buy a bunch of them, and they were actually going over. They were do. I'm not sure how this works. How they went 180% over the value, but because again, I'm not a stockbroker and or anything like. I'm just reading what I've read, and I haven't actually recapped on that, so my brain's kind of fried on the 100% facts of what the short selling is. But the gist that I got was is that basically these guys were hoping that they would buy the shares, these hedge funds, sell them at less than what they bought them for because they thought the price of the stock was going to go down even further. Because it's all it's been doing. It's they have GameStop is essentially been on a slow decline to go out of business.
Because
They've been
everybody's gone to digital
closing
video
businesses
games.
for years now. They've been closing. They've closed hundreds of stores. They've fired all kinds of employees. They've cut back benefits. They've fired half of their staff in their corporate offices. It's one of the few things that I've actually been following because a guy I watch on YouTube worked for GameStop and had been exposing inside stuff in on YouTube about what GameStop's shady practices are and what they're doing inside, not telling their employees, and the crazy goals they set for their employees that they have to, because now they're trying to like buy cell phones from customers so that they can sell them for profit. It's gotten out of hand as far as what like they you remember when you used to go into GameStop and you get bombarded with like 20 or 30 things they're trying to sell you.
Oh yeah.
It just escalated and escalated. And now the whole model's changed. Now it's almost not even about games; it's about electronics. So they're trying to get those used electronics from people so that they can at their price that they would buy like their video games back at, at like 10% of the value of the game, so that they can sell it in the same type of thing and get a huge profit. So they're trying to take their GameStop buy games back from you model and apply it to cell phones and things like that.
Okay.
Um, so they've been going out of business for a while. They're on their way out.
So
I
they're
don't know how
already
long
on their
they're
decline, and
unless
people
yeah,
anticipate
they're
that.
not their business model has been horrible for a long, long time. Hedge funds have realized it. They saw the writing on the wall. They wanted to make money by betting against GameStop, buying those stocks from people that already have the stocks, and then selling them to somebody else. And when those people that they sold it to go to sell them back, when the price is dropped, they're buying those stocks back from them at a cheaper price, giving those stocks back and making money.
So I got to stop because what you're saying is not right. Short selling is not buying a stock; it's actually borrowing a stock.
Okay, so that was
Oh,
okay.
okay.
That's what I had.
Yeah. So what the whole purpose of short selling, and again, the whole purpose is to hedge risk, um, to make money in a down economy. So what he's saying about like making money off the price going down, that is correct. But the way that it works needs some better explanation. So a short seller, what they will do, say the stock is worth $5, they think it's going to go down to $2. So what they'll do is they'll borrow shares from somebody that holds the stock.
Mhm.
Typically it's the market maker. Um, they'll borrow that share or those shares with the promise that they're going to give the shares back to the person. So if the share was at $5, they borrow it from them. The stock price goes down to $2. They in turn give the stock back to the person they borrowed it from at that price that they borrowed it at, which is the $5. But the actual price of the stock now is $2. So in a sense, they're going to make $3 off of that transaction. Again, they don't actually own the stock. They're borrowing it with the promise of giving it back to them.
So what are they
Um,
doing with the stock? Why is that even a thing?
what do you mean?
That makes it sound even shadier. Like they're instead of even buying the stock, they're how are they able to borrow a stock from like let me borrow your stock, and if the price goes down, we're going to give it back to you, and you're going to give us money. Like that seems so shady. Like how is that even a thing that they're able to do?
I was never a fan of it when I learned about it in college.
Like I thought it was a shady practice when they were buying it and selling it back at a loss to the original person. But I thought that gave them the option of not having to sell it, not having to sell it back to them.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
S-
see, that sounds even
s-
worse. So I don't even understand why that's how why is that a thing that they can even do? I don't get that at all.
Be, because it's a way to make money in a down economy. If short selling isn't allowed, um, then if the stock market does tank, or you do have a down economy that we do now, everything is going to suffer. People's pensions, 401ks, they're going to start to really dip. So what the whole purpose of shorting is to again act as a buffer. So on a down economy, people's pensions aren't going to get completely wiped out. Their 401k is not going to get completely wiped out. So there's definitely benefit to it. I've been slamming it, left and right. But that's just because I want people to actually pay attention to this shit because it's, in my opinion, incredibly important. Um, but there is some benefit to it. And the other thing too is, uh, it's a very, very, very risky thing to do.
Yeah,
Um, if you so look at the opposite side. If I were to buy a stock, I'm only in it for I can only lose how much I put in. So if I bought, $1,000 worth of the stock, um, and the price went down to where the stock was only worth, $500, I sell it back and I've lost $500 on
yeah,
on
yeah.
on investing in it. I'm hoping that the price goes up, so when I sell it back, it's at a higher
Mhm.
price and I've made a profit there. Um, so you're only on you're only on the hook for what you've initially put into it, and people are going to sell it before it goes to zero. So even that, you're on the hook for how much you invested. That really isn't 100% true, because nobody's going to wait until the price goes down to zero, but because you can't sell it at that point. So there's risk, obviously, in owning a stock. When it comes to shorting, there is unlimited amount of loss, because of the fact that a stock price can theoretically go up as
there's no stopping.
Yeah.
Which is what the hedge funds learned.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they knew this.
Well, I mean, they knew it, but they.
So, to TJ's point, the GameStop was suffering. These guys saw an opportunity to make a buck while a business is suffering, which is part of what hedge funds do. And ideally, in that scenario, you short it and you make money off of it. What really shouldn't happen, and this is why this is always the argument I had against it, was what's to stop somebody from manipulating things to the point where you get the stock to look really, really shitty, because it's in your favor if people think that the stock sucks. So say I take on a short position, and I got somebody that can write an article for me that millions of people are going to read, that say, hey, this stock is terrible, get rid of it. People start selling it, the price goes down. Guess what? I'm making money off of that shit. So
like
there's
insider trader theory.
Yeah, it's kind of similar. It's just on the opposite side of the spectrum. Insider trading would be, you have inside information that a company's, well, I guess it could work for short selling too, but from a buying perspective, that the company's about to have a good earnings report, which means as soon as that news report goes out, the stock is more valuable, more people are going to want to buy it. When more people buy it, the price goes up, because there's less supply out there. It's a supply and demand thing. So the more people that buy it, the more the price is going to go up. So insider trading is highly, highly illegal, because if you have access to information that nobody else has access to, and you know what is going to happen, it's basically like you have a crystal ball. Like that's not fair.
It's proven knowledge rather than a theory or a hypothesis or whatever they call it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I think they addressed that.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, they addressed that in the video. Like if you had somebody working in the accounting department, and they know that they're the one looking at the books, and they tell you, hey, 2 days from now we're going to put out an earnings report, and it's going to say this. Like, you might want to invest in it. Kind of like the movie Trading Places, like back in the day, in the 80s. It was the same thing. They tried to get a hold of a crop report ahead of time, so that way they knew that orange juice price was going to go up or go. I figured if it was going to go up or go down, but regardless, they had inside information that nobody had access to. Okay. So typically, what you find with short selling, there's only a certain amount of shares available. Typically, what's considered a risky percentage on the total shares available would be short selling 20% of those shares, 20 to 25%. They typically it's about 10%. You don't. It's not too. Anything above 10% is risky. 20% is considered extremely risky. Again, because of the fact that if that price goes up, you're on the hook, and if that price continues to go up, it could be theoretically an unlimited amount of money that you owe. So typically, like I said, about 20% would be considered extremely risky. They were shorting this 140%. So what's considered the most risky investment, they went 7 times riskier than what would be considered risky, extremely risky. So 7 times riskier than the most extreme risk. Like, that tells you right there. When I first got involved in the GameStop story, that's like what caught my eye, was when I saw the 140%. I'm like, I had to do a double take, because I'm like, that's unheard of. Like that, like how is that even possible? And how did that not throw a red flag up immediately to the Securities and Exchange Commission, which regulates and monitors trading to make sure that there's no funny business going on. So people on Reddit, was specifically one guy saw that and was like, holy shit, like, if a bunch of I'm going to invest in this because it's going to take them forever to clear out of that, and they're putting themselves at a very, very risky position. Like, I see an opportunity to make money here, even if I'm buying the stock at $4 and it only it dips down to $2. Like, I've invested $1,000 on it, I'm going to lose $500. The stock price was worth half as much as it was when I bought it. So I can potentially lose $500. On the opposite side of it, knowing what you know about theoretically an unlimited loss, on the opposite side of it, there's a potential for unlimited gain on that. So it's like, this guy and other people are saying, hey, well, shit, $500, like, that's really not that big of a deal. If I lose $500, like, would you spend $500 to potentially make $1 million? Like, absolutely. Like that. Okay. Like, unless you're really, really hurt for cash, like, $500, that's a fucking PlayStation 5. Like, would you forego buying a PlayStation 5 to have the opportunity to make $1 million? And if you know the fundamentals, it's a pretty damn good opportunity to make really, really good money. So that's what these guys did.
No risk, no reward.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what these guys did on Reddit. They all got together because they realized, if enough people buy the stock to the point where there's no more shares available, reminding you, short selling, they are borrowing a stock. So they technically don't have anything. They're just promising that they're gonna get the stock back. So they're gonna give them a stock, eventually, but they don't technically have the stock. So what happens is, if there's no more stocks available, they can't go and buy a stock to give it back to the person that they owe it to. If that's the case, which is what happened with GameStop, you name your price. Hey, there's no shares available. You're coming to me. I'm one of the owners of the stock. Like, oh shit! Like, you have to give this stock back, and there's none available. Like, name your price. Like, like, hey, I'll give you 500. I'll give you $500 for it. I'll give you $480 for it, or whatever. From my end, if I bought that stock at $5 and I'm selling it for $480, like, that's some really good money.
In the bank.
Yeah. So that's kind of the fundamentals of the start of it. So hopefully that part makes sense so far.
Oh, it makes a lot more sense to me since I watched that video.
Okay. So what happened then with GameStop, and why everybody threw a fit, and rightfully so, the people that were selling the trading platform Robinhood, they saw that they were in a position to where they were going to have to owe a shit ton of money to these people that use their trading platform to purchase the stock.
The dark portal.
Yeah, dark pool,
portal.
Yes. Dark portals. Yeah, I know, it sounds scary. It's so funny that some of the terms they use in finance, it's just like, man, like, you guys are really like doom and gloom. Anyways, so where was I at? So Robinhood. So in order to not be on the line to pay out billions of dollars to people that own this stock, and potentially continue to go up and up and up, because that's what was happening. It was continuing to rise and rise and rise and rise. If people aren't selling their stock back, and they're just saying, hey, $400 ain't good enough, I'm going to wait until it's $500, or I'm going to wait until it's $600 before I actually sell this thing, that price can, again, theoretically keep going up. So when we say that, it went to $480, that son of a bitch could have went to over $1,000 a share. So they realized that what they did in order to protect themselves is they cut off the buying of shares, because as people are seeing the price go up, shit, I'm going to buy that stock. Look at how this price is going up. And guess what? That's less and less shares available. And again, these guys are going to be on the hook to actually have to pay these people when they go to sell it. So to basically get out of it and minimize their risk, what they did was they cut off the ability for people to purchase the stock, but they still allowed for people to sell their stock. So if you are good and go back to the supply and demand, if there's less supply, price goes up. If there's more supply, price goes down. So what they did was they put themselves, or they put a position, or they put a scenario out there to where the supply had to continue to go up. It couldn't go down anymore, because you can't buy it anymore. So all the supply can do is go down, which means all that can happen to the price is that can go down. That's exactly what happened. And so say I got into it when it was, and I didn't, this is full disclosure here. I don't have a position in GameStop. So say if somebody were to buy it, they saw what was going on and they got in late. They're like, oh shit, like I'm going to buy this and it's at $400. Like, hey, this thing's going to continue to go up. I'm going to make some money here. You buy it at $400 and then an hour later, like you can't buy it anymore. And all you can do is sell it. So they're seeing their $400. All of a sudden, that thing's worth $350 now, $300, $250, $200. And it's like, all I could do is sell this at this point, and I have to take a loss here. Like there's nothing I can do. Like I have to take a loss here, and that's why everybody was so pissed off, because there are what they call circuit breakers. There are things that will protect people from crazy shit like this happening, but a typical circuit breaker would just stop all trading of stock. I've never seen this before either, to where you only stop one part of a trade, whether it be a buy or a sell. Like that's unheard of. Like if there's some crazy shit going on, they halt the trading of it, do some investigating, figure out what the hell's going on, or if the people don't have enough money to back what's going on, then it gives them time to gather the money that they need to back it. So they basically pulled some shit that like you typically don't see anymore, and people were pissed, rightfully so. Again, rightfully so. It's not something that ever happened before. So
because it only benefited the hedge funds. It didn't benefit anybody else.
Right. It only benefited the people that were on a short position. If the price is constantly going down, the people that are benefiting are the people that have the short positions. Just as if an economy is going down, the people that are going to benefit are the hedge funds, are the people that are taking on short positions. So, the whole thing is just crazy. I'm following it for the last 3 weeks now, and just really, really picking apart, going down the rabbit hole. I'm starting to see movement on the price of the stock that it's just not, it's not common. Like typically you don't see a stock just completely like dip like that, because again, going back to the supply and demand, if the price is starting to dip and people see that, if people truly think that the stock is worth more than what that price is coming down to, they're going to buy it, because they think that the price is going to go back up.
Because they're going to
So
get a
in a
better
sense,
deal.
yeah. So in a sense, what will happen is, typically once the price starts going down, people see that, hey, I think it's higher than that. They buy it, and then the price will start to go back up, and you start to see this type of stuff until you get to equilibrium, and that's typically what you'll get to when you're looking at a stock price, and that's what everybody wants to talk about, free market and everything, and the market will correct itself. That's what they're talking about. It's in people's best interest to buy and sell depending on what their viewpoint is on it, and you'll see that reflected in how the price moves. Well, with this, it's like on this stock, on these other stocks that they're talking about, when you watch them, you see the price start to go down, and it just continues to go down. Like you don't typically see that for that long and that steep. They call it volatility. That's just like how how much a price can move in the matter in a short amount of time. Typically you don't see that amount of volatility to where, again, if people start to see the price go down, there's a lot of people that are going to buy it, and that'll stop that thing from coming down so much, and it'll come back up and back down. So I'm following this, and I'm like, holy shit, like this is crazy seeing these stocks just continue to tank like this, and people aren't buying it, but the volume was there to where it looked like people are actually buying it, but this price is still going down. Like none of this shit made sense to me. Like it wasn't following any of the fundamentals. So I'm doing some more research, trying to figure out how is this possible? Because everything that I've learned tells me that something ain't right here. This is shit that it really shouldn't be happening. Now I come across the high frequency trading, which I'm still learning about it. I knew that computers were involved in trading. I knew that they had more faster ability to trade and sell, or buy and sell, versus a human being. Because a human being, think about it, like, here's my order, I physically give it to you, versus like in an instant that all that shit's already taken care of on a computer. So I start doing some more research in this, and it's like going back to that, if a bad story comes out about a stock, people read that story, it takes them 5 minutes to read the story. Like by the time they're done reading that story, like I own that stock, like, oh shit, I better sell off some. The price is going to be coming down on this thing. By the time they read the story, it's already too late. There's computers that have, as soon as they've seen the story, they've analyzed it, they've already put all these positions in. They put themselves in a short position because they know that the price is going to go down before everybody else does. So like right away, it's like, well, fuck. To your point, like how is that not insider trading? Like how is that? It's kind of the same concept here. Just it's just computers now, and it's faster to do it.
It's after the
doesn't
fact
seem.
rather than before the fact.
Yeah, It doesn't.
It's not an equal
Seem.
playing field.
Yeah, exactly. Not a level playing field for what's supposed to be a free market that they encourage more participation. And the big picture is stock market always has to worry about, the number one thing is confidence. If people lose confidence in the market, they're not going to invest in the market. And if that continues to multiply, you don't have a market anymore. You don't have a market without participants. So the more people lose confidence in the market, the more they come out of it, the more over time the market is going to start to diminish, because there's not as many people trading anymore. They're investing their money in other things besides that. So where was I at with this? Okay, so yeah, so the what I'm finding, I'm going into this and I'm looking. I'll give some more disclosure. I do have position in the stock AMC because of the fact that I actually believe that AMC will eventually go back up when movie theaters open back up. They're going to see an increase in revenues. Eventually, movie theaters will open back up. We don't know when, but eventually that will happen. And on top of it, too, like, they put themselves in a position to where they are purposely crushing this stock. Going back to what I said before, they are purposely lowering the price so they can make a buck off of this. And to me, like I don't like that. I don't want AMC to go under. I freaking love movie theater popcorn, and I want to be able to go still go to the show with my girlfriend when it opens back up. Like that's like one of our favorite things to do. It's one of the biggest things I missed during lockdown and quarantine is that I don't have access to movie theater popcorn right now. I'm going nuts. So I do have a position in AMC, so I've been watching it, and it's completely frustrating to see, like, day after day after day of the stock price continuing to go down, and I'm like, how is this possible? Because as the price goes down, more people should be investing in it. So a couple of the sites that I have access to that give you some not insider, but better data than what the general public has available to them. And on this, you see at least twice a day an article come out about how AMC is a shitty stock. Like, here's why you shouldn't own AMC. You know, this company deserves to go bankrupt. Like, twice a day, they're coming out with these news articles basically slamming the stock. And this is over the matter of 3 weeks now. Like, the price is $5. They're still slamming it, which is
$5.69 right now.
yeah, which is like insane when I think about it. It's like, why are you so worried about people buying a $5 stock?
Yeah.
That they okay, so it goes down to 250. Like, oh, okay, like, yeah, they lost some money on it, but again, it's only a $5 stock. Like,
They don't
it's
want to
not like this.
repeat a GameStop.
Exactly, they don't want to repeat a GameStop. So, I'm looking at the data, and I'm looking at the times that these articles come out. So when the article comes out, they give you the date and the time and when the article was released, and you go and look at the date and the time that the article was released. You go and look at what the stock did at that time, and almost always it's the same thing. The stock price was on its way up. All of a sudden, that news article comes out. Stock price goes back down. Stock price starts to climb back up again. News article comes out, crashes back down again. So it's like this is insanity. Like, this is absolutely nuts. Like, they can just generate, and the worst part about it is,
see, that's true market manipulation, and they're not.
Yes.
Nobody's addressing it.
And they're trying to go after the Reddit people, the people that started the whole GameStop thing, and they're saying these guys are manipulating the market. It's like, dude, you guys, not only did you manipulate the market by only allowing selling and not buying, that's definitely market manipulation right there. But on top of it, in the 3 weeks since then, there have been article after article after article, redundant articles. It's not like it's like new stories
It's the same
breaking
thing.
news.
Yeah.
It's the same fucking story that they keep putting out. Like, how is this not market manipulation? Like, it's just making my head explode, dude.
My theory on them going after that Reddit guy is that they're trying to sustain the faith in the market by blaming someone individually and putting that person out there. They're able to say, okay, this is the reason that this happened. This, we've caught the culprit. We're going after him, and he's going to pay. And you could still trust in us with your money. Instead of calling putting a big spotlight on the flaws of the market. They're trying to snowball everybody into believing that it's one person who's responsible for all of this.
That was the biggest frustration watching the congressional. So Thursday they had a congressional hearing on it with all the members of the finance committee, and out of the 5 hours, there was only I think one person, one representative that actually asked the question, like, what were you? Why is nobody addressing the fact that it was shorted 140%? Like, we keep going after like all these other things, but like, what's your response to, what's your reasoning for shorting 140%? And when he asked that question, every representative only has 5 minutes, and for some reason this guy waited until the end of his 5 minutes to ask that question. By the time he asked the question, you hear the gavel, boom, boom, boom. Okay, your time's up. Next representative. It's like fuck, man. Like that's the
why wouldn't you lead with that? You know what I mean? I think the only reason he put that out there was for his constituents, because he knew that he had 5 minutes. Anytime I see any kind of congressman or anything do something like that, and they always wait for the important stuff at the very end, it's obviously not something they really care about. Something they obviously are smart enough to notice, and they know that it's going to benefit them in their career, but it's not going to. Ultimately, it's not a risk for them, because you can say, "Hey, I tried. I was there for you people." Even though I asked it when I had no time left, I was there. I'm one of you, instead of and then he doesn't put himself at risk with his buddies, because it's like, okay, well, it didn't really cause any problems. So
and then the opposite side of that is, when they do ask the CEO of Robinhood, the trading app, the trading platform, every single time this guy answered a question, thank you for that question. It's a very, very important question. You see, when I started Robinhood, so blah 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 blah, or growing up as a boy in Bulgaria, like he's going into like these freaking novel stories, not even addressing the question and spending 3 minutes of the 5 minutes that's available to basically just, filibuster, to basically just waste time, because if you waste enough time, you don't have to answer the question. It's
Can I ask a
insanity.
question? Why is it timed? Why are these things? I understand they want to give everybody a chance to speak, but you know what? You're there for 5 hours anyway. Make it a few days. It doesn't have to all be done. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
it is. So this is more. There are, I think, two more hearings
there
set.
is.
This was
Okay.
more. Yeah, this was more discovery.
Oh, okay.
So that way they have some better view as to what should they be looking at.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a representative from the Securities and Exchange Commission. So the people that should have been like the referees on the court,
Yeah.
they didn't have a representative of the referees on the court. They didn't have a representative of the clearinghouse. So the people that were, ultimately the backing of the hedge funds and Robinhood, like that, there's no representative from that either. So it's like, why are we even having this in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have the right people available. It's like you can get a freaking random retail investor to testify, but you can't get the fucking referees to testify. Like
The people responsible for watching all this.
yeah. So
the accountability.
crazy. Yeah, the accountability. So crazy. So the other reason why like I'm like so passionate about this is because like I've got a degree in business. I did a double major in accounting and finance and a minor in economics. Like I understand how the economy works. Like I understand how finance works and I understand how accounting works. Like the whole reason I went that route is because if I want to go into business for myself, like I need to know what's going on in the market and I need to know if somebody's going to be basically screwing me over, trying to pull a fast one on me. Like if I know all that stuff, it's like, no, you can't get that shit past me. I know the rules of the game. So following this and following what the economy has done since COVID happened, it's absolutely scary because the things that typically work to stabilize an economy that's going through a recession um, are not working right now for some crazy reason. And at the same time, there's a certain very very small percentage of the population that is making a shit ton of money right now, and that's what they keep saying. Like billionaires increase their wealth by how much money during COVID, while the rest of America has seen their wealth disappear. So basically 99.9% of America is seeing their wealth disappear in this last year, while that 0.1% is seeing some of the best returns they've ever seen in their entire life. So to me, like that's like for people not to be aware of that, like I want people to be aware of that shit is happening right now. And studying what I've studied, you also study the history of the economy and what happens in certain scenarios, not only in our economy, but the history of other countries' economies. What are the potential pitfalls of certain scenarios, and are we going down the road of those scenarios? Because history has shown you what happens when those scenarios take place.
Mm-hmm.
The whole reason we study economics is to be able to predict shit like this and adjust and put ourselves in a better position to survive. So what will typically happen is, stimulus payments. What is supposed to happen with stimulus payments is the part of the economy where, people are purchasing goods. People stop purchasing goods, the economy is going to go down. If people aren't buying shit anymore, it's a smaller economy than it was before. So the whole purpose of stimulus is to get people to start buying shit again, because then
to generate revenue and get it to put the money back in the market.
Yeah. And what's the one thing they always tell you with the stimulus payment? Don't use it on what? Yes. Don't save it. Don't pay off debt with it. buy shit with it, and that's the whole
That's
purpose
the
of it.
whole purpose of it. A lot of people don't realize that, and that's something you would be proud of me that I am aware that the stimulus checks are to generate revenue. That is their biggest purpose.
Mhm.
For the most average person that knows nothing about any of that, I found it very fascinating and interesting when I read. It came across. They said, "What's the big deal about the stimulus checks?" or something like that, because people are suffering and this and that. Yes, they are, and the whole point of it is to spend it, to spend it on your bills, to pay the bills. They say it's best to not pay your debt because that money goes to a different area. If I remember correctly, and but their biggest concern is a lot of people are just saving it. And that right there is the one thing that they don't want you to do. They want you to spend it to put it back into the system to get the economy moving forward, to make revenue, to open more business, to do more things like that, because it all revolves around the
Yeah.
financial pot of the stock market. It's
So
crazy.
Hmm.
on the other end, and a lot of people reason why people are trying to save it is because they don't know and they don't trust that the government isn't going to lock down everything. You know, you have people that are losing their shirts, and they have just enough what they make to to
To
survive,
take care of
and they're not
day-to-day things.
sure if we're going to even get. The first stimulus check was 1,200, the second one was 600. You know what I mean? Like, and we don't know when the third one's coming, if it's going to come at all. Biden
Right.
supposedly is fighting for it, but you keep hearing it was 1,400, and now it's going to be, it could be 1,000. So people's faith in the government to actually watch out for them and have their best interests at heart is severely shaken, which it
Hmm.
should be.
Yeah, rightfully so.
You
Rightfully
know?
so. Absolutely. Like if somebody promises me that they're going to pay me $100 and they
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
and they
When
haven't
did we
paid
hear
me,
about the
like,
1,400? That was what, December, and
yeah,
now
yeah,
it's
like
we might not see it
like
till April. Sorry,
yeah,
one
like
second.
so like if I were to tell Jamie like, hey man, I'm gonna pay you $500 in two
I'm
weeks, and then
back.
2 weeks come around and I don't pay you the $500, like you're probably gonna have a different opinion of me, like, hey, like, or at the very least, like you're going to, uh, not trust my word, so to speak. So yeah,
Moving forward with it. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Trust fall.
So I started looking at some data, and this is a practice that I had to do for my I think it was the either 300 level or 400 level economics class, to where basically you had to gather data for the entire semester of all the different factors of the economy, and based on that data come up with your own conclusion as to what the economy was going to do. So it was pretty cool because this was 2007 when I had this assignment. So it must have been 300 level class. So it was 2007 when I did that, and I actually predicted that the housing market was going to collapse and that we were going to go into a recession, if not a depression. It's exactly what happened in 2008, right? We saw one of the one of the biggest crashes we've seen in our lifetime with the housing market, and we saw the economy take a huge dip. So it's like I was able to predict this shit given um, all the factors and analyzing it. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me go back and do that again now. It's just seems like a fun time to be doing something like that. So I look at the different things, and some things like really stick out to me. So typically, intervention for a down economy would be stimulus, like we just talked about, and that should increase consumer spending. If people get stimulus money, there's more, and they spend it, then we should see because they track all of this data. So it's called a consumer spending index, or personal consumption expenditures is another way to put it. It's basically like it's data gathered on how much people are spending money on goods or services. So typically with stimulus, you should see that increase. Well, in the last quarter that they give, because they give it in quarters. So the last quarter, consumer spending was up 1.3%. So that's a good thing in September. Um, Only at 0.3% in October, down 0.7% in November, and down 0.2% in December. So we're on a downward trend here for consumer spending. So stimulus ain't working.
Which seems kind of odd to me, with December being the holiday.
Sure. Yeah. I think. Well, I think, and you bring up a great point. I think that's why you didn't see it continue to drop down. Like that's why you saw it go from negative zero point 0.7 to negative zero point 0.2 is because of the fact that just in general people are going to be spending more money. And going back to GameStop, these people did these short positions in November. What
during the
what
holidays.
what what happens? Yeah, exactly. What
You buy
happens
video
in November
games.
and just
Yeah.
the video game industry? That's their busiest freaking
Mm-hmm.
Because
time.
everybody's
So
buying new
you've got
systems or buying new
yeah
headsets and controllers. And while they're there, they're
new
looking at the
titles,
little figures.
new titles are coming out. You know, new titles always come out in
Couple
November.
Mm-hmm.
Call of
used
Duty.
games while you're
Call
Yep.
there.
of Duty every year.
But on top of it, not only is it the the time of year, it's also the time of decade when the next generation platforms are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys are betting against them 7 times more risky than
that's
the
crazy.
riskiest investment.
Like people
So
are gonna buy the shit. Like
yeah,
During the height
and
of
on top,
their business.
so why are you doing it at such a high percentage of the other way when you know it's going to make money? Like even if
yep,
it doesn't
and
try.
not
So I'm
and
with you
not
now.
and not just that. So there's other things. So there's certain things that will automatically bring a stock price up because people will want to invest in it more. So, in expectation of an increase in revenue, which is exactly what we talked about there, it's the holidays. People are going to be spending more money on video games. That would be the worst time out of all the months of the year. That would be the absolute dumbest time to short a stock of a
Mm-hmm.
company that deals with video games.
To
And on
bet
top of
against it.
it, on top of it, they had just hired on a new CEO. The
Mm-hmm.
CEO from uh, the the
Nintendo,
pet.
wasn't it? No.
No.
Who is the Nintendo game?
What's the pet food company?
Petco?
Not Petco. It's an
Chewy.
online
You
one.
said Chewy.
Chewy. Yes, Chewy.
Chewy, that's
Yeah,
who it was.
yeah. So they just hired on the CEO from Chewy. Regardless, the fundamentals will always tell you, regardless how crappy a company is doing, if you bring in a new CEO, what typically happens is you see a bump in stock price because there's more faith that things are going to get better. So they bet at a time when revenue should have been increasing. They bet at a time when the stock price should have increased just because of the fact that they got a CEO. Like they were like doubling down and tripling down on during the worst time. So I kind of got off a tangent there, but that's what people's that know what the hell's going on. They see this shit and it's like why the hell are they doing this? Like
See,
they're
it all makes sense. I didn't realize it was that time of the year when all of it started to unfold. So that makes sense. They're like, why are they going to basically bet for the downfall of these companies when it's guaranteed to make more revenue at the time? So
yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do it, that's cool, but that's the absolute dumbest time to do it.
Do it in January when they are losing money,
right,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
right,
Because all
exactly.
they're getting in are the gift certificates and money that's already been spent.
Exactly. So, going back to the economic concern that I have. So, consumer spending. We just said that the stimulus hasn't increased consumer spending. There's another tool or another lever that the government, the Fed can use to help get the economy to come back up, and that is a reduction in interest rates, which they have been doing, which they did the biggest one back in March of last year. They brought the interest rates down below 1%, which is typically not a good thing because long term, all you're going to end up doing is putting more money into the system, which again, supply and demand, if there's more money in the system, the value of the dollar decreases. So inflation is typically the byproduct of being at a low interest rate for too long. It's a good temporary measure, but again, if you do it for too long, if you don't play it right, you put yourself in a position to where like, okay, it might have helped, but in the long run, we're fucked because the dollar is not worth as much as it was previously. So interest rates have been lower, stimulus has happened, consumer spending is decreasing. Like and that's just one part of the equation. So right away, it's like, okay, something ain't right here, because the shit that typically, if you follow the history of economics and follow the history of what stimulus and reduction in interest rate will typically do to an economy, that shit ain't happening right now.
Yeah.
So the point that I keep making to my friends that work in the financial sector that, want to back the hedge funds, which, rightfully so, they work in the, I'm talking shit about their coworkers, they're going to defend them. Awesome. I don't fault them for it. But I'm going to come at them with data and be objective about it. So it's like, what, either suddenly these economic models that we've been relying on for decades, since the early 1900s, I shouldn't say that, since probably about like the 1930s.
Didn't it start didn't you have a big shift in how we did it after the Depression?
Yeah.
There was a pretty big shift, wasn't there?
Yes, so that's where we shifted from classical economic theory to Keynesian economic theory. Classical economic theory is just the market will correct itself. The government shouldn't do anything. In the long run, things will work out and we'll get back to normal. Well, John Maynard Keynes is an economist that argued successfully that in the long run, we're all dead. If we don't address this stuff, you're going to get to a point where the market can't correct itself. So we need to intervene and do things to make sure that shit don't happen. So in the long run, we're all dead. We have to do things in the short run to get our economy back up and running. And that's where stimulus spending, that's where reduction in interest rates, like that's where all that stuff kind of came from. And that's the thought behind it. We don't have time, to wait around for things to correct itself, because it's going to get to a point where it can't correct itself anymore. So, we've been relying on these interventions, and we've got a pretty decent history of, almost 100 years now of data that shows that when we do this, it has a positive impact on the economy. It impacts consumer spending by increasing consumer spending. It increases, and that's the stimulus part. So when we look at other important factors of it, business spending. So it's not just what people are spending, but what our business is spending. The more money businesses are spending on shit, the more the economy goes up. Well, we look at business spending. Since COVID started, and without giving data, since COVID started, do you think businesses are spending more money or less money?
I'd say less money.
Why? You're right, by the way. I agree, but why?
Well, a lot of things is that they're cutting staff.
Absolutely, wages.
They have to cut wages because they can't have, like, restaurants are one of the biggest ones. Any type of gathered businesses like movie theaters, restaurants, they're all losing staff. That's just one aspect of it. When you cut out product, obviously, because obviously if they don't have the staff to sell stuff, they're not going to be moving as much product.
Plus, they're also going to be spending money differently on the things that they buy for the company to provide their product. So they might, rather than buying 10 pounds of potatoes, they might only be buying 5 pounds of potatoes because they don't need this much. So they're
that's what I
saving
mean.
money
Like, their inventory is going to change.
They're losing money because they're not making a whole lot of profit, but they're finding ways to cut the corners and to cut the profit, cut the profits they're having and making it stay profit, because it's not what you make, it's what you spend. So that's so I see that as being a big factor to that.
Absolutely. So if you think about it, and you've probably seen it if you go grocery shopping on a consistent basis, you see a lot more empty shelves these days than you used to, or you see a lot less product than you used to, because it's not in a company's best interest to have an empty shelf. Empty shelf is lost. Anybody that's worked retail, planograms are always supposed to be full, right? Make sure that everything is stocked, everything's
pulled
priced.
forward,
every empty hole is a lost opportunity.
Exactly. So, and go back to what we said before about consumer spending. Hey, why should I make more shit if people aren't spending money right now? If anything, I should make less. There's not as much demand out there, so I'm not gonna increase the amount of spinach that I'm selling. I'm using spinach because I keep seeing spinach out of at the grocery store out of stock, and it's pissing me off because I use it for my protein shake. But and rightfully so. Like it makes sense, So the only justification I have for businesses having to increase the amount of spending is maybe on Clorox, maybe on cleaning agents, things that they need to do to make sure that they're COVID kosher, so to speak.
Yeah,
That's
so
pretty
they're
cool. COVID kosher. I
compliant.
just made that up.
I like that.
Yeah, COVID compliant. Um, and when you compare that to the amount less that they're paying in employee wages, the amount less that they're paying in creating product, it's a drop in the bucket. Like it's not going to tilt the scales in the favor of like, that their overall spending is growing. Overall spending is decreasing. So two of the biggest factors of the economy right there have not been positively impacted by this type of intervention. Again, that has always worked in the past. So another side of the coin is, well, if they're not spending, then are businesses investing and are people investing? If they're not spending, if they're not purchasing goods and services, are they investing in stuff? So from a business perspective, that looks like, are they building a new plant? Are they building a new factory? Are they researching a new product? Are they creating a new product line? That shit ain't happening right now. The businesses aren't, hey, I need to start. Maybe Amazon, maybe companies that are, have more business because of the current scenario. But in general, businesses aren't investing in new shit right now because I'll go back to my own. I wanted to lease my own space for a personal training studio. Going and thinking over it after a couple of days, I'm like, what am I, nuts? Why the hell would I do that right now? Because I'm on the hook to pay that lease, and there could be a time where I can't take it. I can't use the space for a month, 2 months because of a lockdown. It makes absolutely no sense. Why the hell would I put myself in that type of position? So investments aren't going up, business spending isn't going up, consumer spending isn't going up. But what has Trump always, always, always talked about? The economy is doing great. GDP is doing great. GDP is gross domestic product. Just think of that as just the overall economy. Like, are things getting better or are things getting worse? So we used intervention through stimulus and through a reduction in interest rates. We didn't see that benefit consumer spending, business spending, or business investments. We didn't see any of that go up. Yet the gross domestic product, yet the economy is still continuing to grow. Like, what the fuck is going on here? How is this happening? And then you go and look at it and you see, well, these billionaires have made, record profits and they're making more money than anybody else has been making. Like, they're making out like bandits right now, and everybody else is suffering. And the shit that we normally do to stop people from suffering, not only is it not working, it's benefiting these people that are already in a position that they're not suffering. A billionaire having a bad year. Are you kidding me? They're not out on the street. Like, that's like, oh wow, my portfolio is a little worse than it was the year before, but I could still put food on the table. Meanwhile, millions and millions of Americans are struggling to put food on the table, struggling to keep a roof over their head. A majority of them have, rent that's eventually going to be due from these eviction moratoriums. Like, yet these other people are making out like bandits. And the concern that I have with that is, and they call that a K-shaped recovery. Anytime you see a K-shaped recovery, that's not a good thing. So if we look at a graph and we look at, the top earners and the rest of the world, over time with stimulus, what should happen is both of those graphs should rise. Consumer spending should rise, business spending should rise. So the rich people should get a little bit more rich. The rest of the population should continue to get rich as well. What we've seen since the stimulus and since the intervention is this go up and this go down, which, red flag right there. Okay, something's fucked up. But from a historical standpoint, income inequality is something that everybody should be concerned with, because history has shown the greater the gap between the richest and the poorest, and this goes all the way back to fucking ancient Roman time, the bigger that gap, the more likely that there is going to be some type of unrest, instability, or just a complete collapse. And that gap has been slowly rising pretty much since the 80s, since we Reagan came around and said, trickle down economics. If we give the breaks to the job creators, fucking, oh, I hate that word, the job creators. Oh, there's more jobs out there, so there's going to be more money, and people are going to make more money. Like, well, the data shows that's completely false. Like, the money ain't trickling back down. But they've been able to get away with it because it's just been a slow rise. It's almost like if you put a frog in water, if you put a frog in boiling water, frog's going to jump out right away. But if you put a frog in warm water and you turn the heat up and it's slowly rising, the frog is it's going to die. It's going to burn to death without it even knowing. So that's pretty much what's been happening right now. Like I said, since all the tax breaks that we've been given to the ultra wealthy and corporations, we've been on that K-shape, economy, or income distribution, I should say. So the concern I have is, like, not only were we doing that to begin with for the last 40 years now, 40 years now. Now all of a sudden, this slow has suddenly gone like that. Like, the gap has aggressively come apart.
Yeah.
And like I said, what history shows is that when that type of shit happens, that's when you have civil wars. That's when you have people taken into the streets. That's when you have markets collapse. That's where you have governments destabilize. Nothing good comes out of it. And,
No.
and the higher that gap gets, the more likely that scenario is to happen. So it's like, okay, we've given all this money out, we've created the stimulus, we've reduced interest rates, which in the long run is going to make us poorer because the dollar is going to be less valuable. And on top of it, the income inequality is going through the roof. Like, this shit is completely unsustainable. Like, we're in for some pretty nasty shit coming up based on what history tells us and what economic factors tell us. So, like, I've been, like, trying to blow the whistle on this, trying to, like, tell anybody, like, hey, this shit's fucked up. Like, this is not a good route to be on. And it's funny because it's like, anytime I talk with anybody that's in the financial sector, it's like, oh, well, they want to come up with all this convenient data, which, that's the fucking case.
It's convenient data.
Yeah, exactly.
You mean data that exists that's actual and factual?
No. Meaning, like, you're picking and choosing the data that only works.
I know. I'm just saying that this is data that's actual and factual.
Yeah. I mean, and that's par for the course these days, right? It's like, well, what about this? This is, they wanted to say, well, the Redditors shouldn't have invested in GameStop because if you follow the fundamentals, it doesn't make sense. And what is GameStop really worth? Is it really a $400 stock? Like, we need to look at this. Yet these same motherfuckers are the first to praise Tesla for how high of a stock price that stock is. Tesla has not seen a profit, I think, in the last 2 years. Yet their stock price is increasing like crazy. So if we look at the fundamentals and we use that excuse, it's like, okay, like, then why is Tesla overvalued? If you look at its book value, it's not worth that. And by the way, the last 2 years, it's taken a loss. Like, if you're going to use that argument, you have to use it across the board. You can't just pick and choose it. That's ridiculous. So, like, just everything is screaming like someone's cheating, someone's getting away with murder here, and eventually we're all going to freaking pay for it, just like we did in 2008. And we still haven't recovered from 2008. That was, how many years ago now? 13 years ago now? Like, people are still hurting from that last collapse. And so, like, I bring it to people's attentions. It's like, well, hedge funds are important because, that's people's pensions and that's people's 401k. And if hedge funds go under, then 401ks and pensions go under. It's like, okay, so that's permission to just continue to do shady shit that's not sustainable. Like that makes absolutely no sense. Like, so you're basically like using the fear of people losing some money to get them to not worry about losing money in the future. Like,
I have a pension. If I find out that my hedge fund is using my pension, if the hedge fund's using my pension money to short stock, I'd raise a fucking fit. I'd be like, why are you doing it at a high risk? Put it in something that's gonna.
well, and again, going back to if they're following the fundamentals and they're not shorting it more than 10%, it's
Mhm.
not really that big of a risk. And if anything, it's a good thing because it's going to help your pension during a time like this when
Mm.
the economy is going down. So in a sense, it's good because it creates that buffer. You know,
So would it be beneficial maybe for the SEC or whatever the powers would be to put a limit on how much you can short?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And why haven't they done that already? That's the
Great
other
question.
question.
Well,
You know?
you got to understand too. Like, you got to understand the dynamics of, you know, what's everybody talking about these days, and what do people generally accept as, like, you know, the right thing to do. You know, what's the common um, what's the common consensus in the general public about regulation? Are they for it or against it?
50-50.
What do you hear? Oh, better question.
I'm even 50-50 on regulation as well, just myself.
Yeah, and you
There's some
should
things that I feel like there should be regulation on, and some things I don't think there should be. You know, but
absolutely,
it's
absolutely. I'm
personal
with you.
belief. In my opinion, you know.
I'm with you 100%. I should have asked a better question. What's being pushed? More regulation or less regulation?
Oh, less regulation by far. Everybody I talk to.
Abs,
Yeah.
100%, a hundred
Mhm.
percent. And the thing is, like, oh well, you know, it's more regulations means there's got to be more. You know, we're going to have to pay for stuff more. Things are going to be more expensive. You know, the whole uh, anti-regulation thing is just simply big corporations trying to reduce the
Mhm.
amount of costs that they have to take on to do business. But the
Yeah.
fucked up thing is that cost doesn't just disappear. That
Mhm.
cost goes somewhere.
Yeah.
And who takes on the cost? It's not the business, it's
Mhm.
us.
Right.
So
Yep.
the example with that is always, you know, say a coal power plant, you know, opens up, uh, you know, in my neighborhood, and
Mhm.
out of the smokestack, all this coal, you know, is coming, or all this smoke is coming out of it, and you know, instead of investing in a filter to where you know that smoke ain't coming out of it anymore, hey, that costs money. We're not going to do that. There's still that that shit's got to go somewhere. So what happens is, hey, everybody's clothes start getting dirtier. You know, their furnace filters in their house have to be replaced more often. There is a cost
Mhm.
that somebody's going to have to take on. And deregulation, all that is just saying, like, hey, the company ain't going to take on the cost anymore. Somebody else is. And typically
Well, with the
that go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and typically the other person that takes on the cost is us. You know, and this is exactly what's going on in Texas right now. It's almost like,
Yeah.
dude, like, we're not learning our fucking lesson. Like,
It's
hello,
right there in front of us.
it's right
The,
there in front of us. That Texas is all about deregulation. They only have,
yep.
they're not part of our grid. They only have a monopoly, one company that's responsible for providing life-sustaining service with electricity.
Yep.
If they're not regulated, what's to stop them from, hey, tomorrow, like, your electric bill is normally $100. Hey, guess what? We're going to bump that up to $200.
Isn't
Yeah.
that kind of what's going on in Texas?
That's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what's going
exactly.
on in Texas. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it's like, what's to stop them from doing that?
Yeah.
If in their defense, hey, I'm just playing by the rules. It makes
Yeah.
more sense for me to make more money because
Hmm.
it's more profitable and I'm in business to make profit. Why the hell would I sell it for $100 when there's nothing stopping me from selling it for $200?
Exactly.
From a consumer perspective, it's like, what the fuck, man? I was paying $100 before, now all of a sudden I got to pay $200? Like, how is that fair to me? So you have these people, and I've been, like, you know, having debates with people that, you know, are in Texas, and they're like, oh, you know, regulation against regulation, this and that. It's like, are you dumb? Like,
Yeah.
are you just stupid? Like, you're your people are dying right now. And what? Because you've saved a couple cents on your electric bill by making sure that you're only under the profit motive, and you're not regulated by any type of rules, that of doing business. Like regulation, to your point, 50/50, I'm with you. In a free market with many participants, regulation is typically a bad thing, unless it's something, like, it's really going to be detrimental to us.
Mhm.
Um, you know, regulation is going to slow things down. But when it's a monopoly, when there's no competition and that's the only thing available, you better be making sure that things are on the up and up with that. And we've
Yeah.
already learned our lesson with this.
No,
In
we haven't. We
2000,
haven't learned it.
I'm sorry. We haven't learned our lesson. We should have. Back in 2001, the biggest accounting scandal in American history with Enron.
Ponzi.
It's the same fucking shit. Enron,
Oh yeah,
was
yeah, Enron. Yeah.
was basically like, hey, they were manipulating the supply of energy to drive the prices up. Hey, we're having a down quarter. Guess what? We're gonna just turn the lights off on people. Demand is going to go through the roof, which means the amount that we can charge is going to increase, and it's justified because there's not as much supply. We go right back to, if there's less supply available, price is
Mhm.
going to go up. All of a sudden, these guys are having record quarters, and oh my God, Enron's the best. Before the scandal, people were saying Enron is, oh my God, this business is amazing. Like it's
Mhm.
incredible how awesome these guys are doing, and they're doing things the right way. And it's like you pull back the curtain and you realize, like, these motherfuckers are turning the power off on
Yeah.
people to make more money.
Mhm.
And people still want to say, like, oh, like monopoly, like monopolistic company like should never be regulated, and they should have the right to charge whatever the hell they want to. It's like, dude, history's already shown us that shit don't
Yeah.
work. Like,
Corporations do not give a shit about anything but their bottom dollar. That's it.
true, very true.
It's just the way the world works. It's cynical and probably depressing, but it's just the way I view it. It's
Well,
they don't give a shit about it.
the messed up thing is, by law, that's how they're supposed to act. So
Mhm.
the purpose of a corporation is to increase shareholder wealth.
Yeah.
They can actually be legally held liable if they are proven not to be doing that. So they could actually get fined, or get or take their whatever their I don't know if it's charter or whatever it's called, but
Mhm.
their papers that say that they're a corporation.
Yeah.
That shit can get taken away from the government. They can no longer exist anymore. Like,
That's why, like, if you're do a personal business, you always want to try and do an LLC, so that way that the government can't come for your shit.
well, it's more of, no, they can, because
Even with
they
an
they
LLC,
can
I thought that
they
left
can
you out of
no, 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 no. So the purpose of that, because in
like
order
your own
to,
stuff. I don't mean like your license,
yes,
but
yes,
your
yes,
actual,
yeah,
yeah, like your house and stuff like that.
right, right.
Yeah.
Limited liability corporation is what
Yes,
you're
that's what it
talking
is.
about.
Thank you.
And if somebody does sue the corporation, they can only get what the value of the company is. So a great example of this, for instance, let's say I own some rental properties. If I have those rental properties under my name and somebody sues me that is a renter of mine, they can sue me for everything that I have, all the assets that are listed underneath my name. If I were to create an LLC and have the businesses not under my, or the properties not under my name, but under the business, they can go and sue for everything that the property is worth, but they can't come after me.
Yeah.
They can't get my shit. The only thing that they can get is what's on the books for your company. So yeah, absolutely. LLC is anybody that's in real estate, like, make sure you put your shit in an LLC, man, because you're opening up
Crack
a
Daddy
whole can of worms
says
there.
LLC protects your person, and this is LLC. You only sues
Yep.
businesses. He also said TJ is mean, and he told me that I need to dye my beard.
I'm mean. Why am I mean?
Wow. Teacher's one of the nicest people I've ever met.
How am I mean? I'm
But
sorry. I didn't
hey,
mean to be
Hold
mean.
on.
let's be fair here. His name is Crack Daddy, and he's sounding
Crack
like he's on
Daddy.
crack
That's
right
right.
now. So I mean,
For some
it's
people, it's Uncle Crack
What's up,
Daddy.
Crack Daddy?
Crack Daddy. It's
Um,
just par for the course.
um,
So yeah, there's just crazy shit going on right now, man, and it's it's exciting to watch,
well,
but it's also scary.
now somebody that's viewing this on Twitch, what was it? Ernie Licious, said, "What are thoughts on marijuana use?" I asked him to be more specific, but going off of that into everything that we're talking about now, if they were to legalize marijuana,
Hmm.
wouldn't that generate a lot of revenue for the stock
For the
market?
federal government,
But
it
the
would.
federal government still has to be, because I know that like there's something where everything has to be with cash because it's not insured. It's not was it,
Correct.
you guys probably know more in depth about it than I do,
That would
but
affect the GDP, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So yes, it would, and it would uh, positively affect it. Um, but to Jamie's point, um, they can only deal with cash, and there's only a very, very, very small percentage of banks that they can deal with. They can't just, open up an account with Chase or any of the big ones, because there's too much liability involved with it. So they have to go through a specific bank in order to do their business, and all the transactions have to be done in cash. So if it was legal, they can they can they can bank anywhere. So they're not limited as to how they can operate their business, which means that shit's gonna, get better for them. That's actually another group of stocks that also has been heavily shorted, and people are starting to make a lot of money on that right now, and are set to make a shit ton of money if federal regulation does pass. So yeah, that's fascinating stuff too. There's some really really cool shit about to happen with that if that does go legal. Which, to answer his question, yeah, I'm all for it. Like 100% legalize it. I've been
Yeah.
saying that for a long ass time, man. I don't know one story of somebody dying from an overdose, or having their life completely ruined because of marijuana. Um, Relatively speaking, when we compare it to alcohol. Like alcohol fucking destroys people's lives, man. Like that shit. I mean, and not everybody, but again, the level of risk that comes along with making marijuana legal, there's a lot more risk involved with having alcohol legal as opposed to marijuana.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so for where I'm at in Illinois, uh let's see.
Yeah.
20
he said I'm
23
muted. Oh shit, that's
23
terrible.
million in revenue for Illinois as of December
Thanks.
15th. So it went legal beginning of the 2020 for us, and on article December 15th from the Chicago Sun-Times newspaper, nearly 23 million in revenue was just a few million less. Blah, blah, blah. What does it say here? Oh, fucking advertisements, I tell you. Um,
Yep, yep. Little dingleberries. That's what they are. Little As
Yeah,
everything.
so it was just less than so it was just less than 3 million compared to taxes collected through alcohol sales. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So you've almost doubled the amount that you would typically get from alcohol sales, introducing something that is not killing people like alcohol does. To me, that's a fucking no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
that's not even up for negotiation. I mean, I don't know. It makes no sense to me. I know that there's a lot of people talk about the hardest part about legalizing marijuana is because of a lot of people that had problems with it in the past, and got in trouble for it, and they, they'll never get that time back. That they spent in jail or that they spent, not being able to do certain things in their lives because of having that on their record for so long. I'm not sure. I think of that kind of like, because I know that's a big thing for a lot of people that I personally talk to about them legalizing it, is that it would just be such a big spectrum of people that were affected so bad. But
See, I hate that argument.
We but
It's
we
the
but we need to move
it's
forward from that.
yes,
We
it's the
learned our
same.
lesson. Let's
It's
use it.
you got me fired up here because I keep hearing the same argument about student loan forgiveness. What about the people that paid their shit? What are they gonna get? So the analogy to explain this, um, so you have a trolley car, and on its route, it continues to cause people to die. Like eventually, you get to the point like, hey, maybe we should reroute this. And the argument to against rerouting it is, well, how is that fair to the people that died?
Yeah.
It's stupid. It's absolutely dumb. It's a nonsensical argument. Like it's not fair to the people that
We're
were
supposed to learn
that
from the mistakes. We need to take that and go. I mean, the whole point, the whole reason that weed became illegal, and I think Joe Rogan goes over this a few times, is because of the paper mill, because of this paper tycoon. This guy was afraid he was going to lose his business to hemp, so he put out and backed the original what the hell was that marijuana flick, the one that they put out to with the
reefer madness.
Reefer Madness. Yeah, they put out the original Reefer Madness to spark this thing and gave it the word marijuana as the name when it wasn't even actually the original. Yeah, it was never marijuana was something else and completely a different thing entirely. And they took that word and put it onto this drug onto pot and created this whole scare and then got the whole drug war on drugs thing and banned it because he was afraid that hemp was going to take over and ruin his business. He had all this land with all these trees and this huge business and paper, and it was gonna destroy his business. So he went after it hard and very successfully. And now we're still, what is it, 40 years, 60 something years later, still demonizing and making still have these laws on the books to make this drug that illegal.
Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know,
it's it's really what created drug cartels. So if there's a demand for a product and you remove all legal suppliers, but there's still demand for the product, what happens? A
goes to the
black
black
market
market.
a
Yeah.
black market opens up. So
Hmm.
all the fucking cartels that everybody's mad about,
Hmm.
in Mexico, like
That will
a
kill
lot of that
the
is,
cartel business.
yeah,
oh,
Well,
yeah,
without a
maybe
doubt.
not
it'll
kill
kill
it,
that,
but
but it'll definitely put a dent in their business. But
mhm.
the grand scheme of things, we're responsible for a big part of that.
Yeah.
If we had a market to where people can get access to it, there wouldn't be a need for a black market. There wouldn't be a need for drug cartels. But they had the drug abuse resistance education. I'm a proud graduate of that. Like once they fucking did all that stuff, that's when the cartels started getting power, man. Like
Mhm.
this shit's crazy. It's just, again, it's going back to just, I really, really wish that the majority of the population understood basic economics. I really wish that they taught that in high school. Like,
They
all the
did
stuff.
back in middle school when I was in middle school. They went over. They started it to an introduction to it at
Yeah, nice.
Sandwich Middle School, but it didn't. It wasn't engaging. Like I never find any interest. I didn't have any interest in it back then. It wasn't really like it was one of those classes where you're like, oh fuck, I'm going to this class. You know what I mean? Like,
It can be boring
you
for
know.
sure,
So
for sure.
I think
I
not only just putting it as an available course, because knowing kids, you have to make it some kind of engaging, some kind of engagement factor. As much as it sucks to have to do that, you have to make it palatable, you know, for
yeah,
people.
absolutely.
Because even
Yeah, I
now it
think
makes my head spin.
I think back in the day, freshman year of high school, we got on one of our good buddies in our group of friends because he took a class called General Business. We're like, what the hell is General Business?
Yeah,
It's yeah,
yeah,
the hell are you doing? And then I'm
yep,
like looking back on it, I'm like, man, am I an idiot? I wish I would have taken that class with him.
yeah,
But yeah, to your point, it's the you got to make it palatable. You got to make it somewhat
Got to make it
interesting.
interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Which I mean, to me,
Which takes a
like
special type of
one of
teacher.
one oh that's every subject. But to me, that's like one of the things. One of the classes I took in college was called Money and Banking, and I'm like it basically tells you like how money is created, like what actually happens, like when money changes from one hand to the other, what happens with it. Like it was a really really cool class. I actually like kept a textbook of that class because I always want to like go back and look at it because to me it's fascinating, man, to understand like where our money actually comes from. What how it's just created. It's not like our boss has a bag full of money and he's just giving it out to you. Like there's so much more to it. Really really cool stuff.
I'll let you answer that one, TJ.
No thanks.
First question Bear Crack wanted to know is TJ, will you sing for us?
No, no, definitely will not.
And his second question, I don't understand because again it's pretty broad, but I'm gonna do my best attempt. And I think it goes back into what we've been talking about. It says, "Do y'all think college is needed?" Now, obviously, that could be a funny question. It could be a straight up question, but in the big sense of things like that, is college necessary when there's trade schools, when there's other types of businesses or other types of education with online and things like that? I really wish I knew exactly what he meant by that, or more in depth. But I'm gonna say my version that yes, I do think college is necessary, but I think for me, I went to a community college in Seminole County, Orlando, and I went for a semester and a half. Um, I could tell you a million excuses why I didn't continue on, but I can tell you that I'm not going to get down that. But I will tell you that I felt like I was excited when I went to take my class because I was gonna. I originally got the job. I got a job at PetSmart, and they said after you work for the company for so long, if you go to school, it'll help pay for your education and your tuition. So
Nice.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking, hell yeah, man! I'm all about the business. I'm all about PetSmart. They've been taking care of me, paying me. And I was with them for like 2 years or something, and then they were saying if you go to school, that'll help you with your tuition, yada yada yada. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm decided I'm going to sign up for school, and I apply for the school. I apply for this tuition help from PetSmart, and then shortly after I started school, I got a letter from PetSmart saying they would not pay for any of my tuition. Um, didn't really have any big reason, and even if it did, it didn't matter. I threw the fucking thing away because I was irritated because I was corporate man, and I lived, breathed, selling the numbers and doing all the things. But back to the point at hand is I found that when I went to school, it was for business management, and because I figured if one topic is going to be good for PetSmart was going to be business management. Well, anyways, um, while I was at school, I had all these different classes and whatnot, but I was thinking I'm a music man. I'm going to sign up for a music thing. Well, then it's like, oh, well, you have to go to so many of these concerts a year to go learn about the Baroque period of music and this period of music, and you have to have so many hours going to these concerts and these different things. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm working a full time job, going to school full time. I don't have time to go and just be sitting around listening to somebody bang on something that looks like an old stand up bass. Like, you know, busy people. So I feel that college is necessary for a great place to provide an education, but I feel that you do get the same amount of that from trade schools and things that are more career focused or more uh, what you're actually working on, rather than taking this class and that class and that class and that class and that class to be able to screw in a light bulb and to be able to wire it from one point to the other point. You know, if I'm going to be an electrician and I want to become an electrician, I know that the way that their business works, they have apprenticeships and they have all these other things. But I don't want to go and learn about the Baroque period of music if I'm trying to learn how to wire up a garage safely, you know? I don't know. So I guess it's kind of a 50-50 for me, but I think education is needed, obviously. Um, but college itself, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with that one. Do you guys have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, go ahead, TJ. I got a
Um,
lot to add to it.
all right. Well, mine will probably be pretty short. I mean, in my opinion, the trade schools, they are in a sense a college. You start off learning. I mean, when you go into learn a college course, you have certain requirements you need to take before you can take a certain course, because they want you to have the base fundamentals of, of such and such. I forget what it was I was going to take um, for a business stuff, but there was courses ahead of time that you had to take to have that pre knowledge, so they knew, okay, you have this understanding of this, so now you can understand the basics of this, and not be lost right from the get-go. um Trade schools do that, you know what I mean? They are a sense of college. They start you off in the beginning and they say, okay, you have to have a certain math class, because if you're going to be an electrician, you need to know you have to have a certain math skill. Plumbing, you have to have a certain set of math skills. A lot of these trade schools requirements, actually a lot of requirements for college, are basic math skills. So I do think they're important for certain things. Do I think they need to be a little bit more regulated? Yeah, getting into regulation. I think they're a little wild on what they charge, and the variety of things, the less the little bit of help that is actually given doesn't really incentivize people to really want to make that kind of commitment. Um, in my opinion, to really jump into college. And all things known, I've only taken two college courses. Yeah, two college courses. So I don't have a whole lot of experience in college, but I know dealing with stuff like that, I was just like, yeah, this isn't for me. But yeah, I don't know. Long and short of it, I think it is important. It just needs to be done differently, personally. Both debt and financially, mostly on the financial end.
Nice. All right, so here's my take on it. I forgot. Like I'm like, people are typing stuff in here, and I don't know what they're typing. I can just log into Twitch.
To Twitch, yeah, yeah.
So now I can see questions as well. Thanks everybody for asking questions. This is awesome. So yeah, my take on college, just personal experience. It was best thing I've ever done. Was commit to going to college full time. Like Jamie, I did community college at first. It wasn't for me. My head wasn't in the game, and I ended up just working full time instead. But I went back to college when I was like 25 years old and actually did full time and made it all the way through. Um, so the benefits. Um, Anybody that you talk to, um, yeah, anybody that you talk to that has graduated college, you'll typically hear them say the same thing. The purpose of college is to learn how to learn.
Mhm.
And I agree with that. It puts you in a different mindset of being open to learn new things, and it forces you into a mindset in a positive way of understanding how to truly learn, how to critically think about things, and not just take things for face value, but actually be able to pull things apart and see if there's any truth behind it. So from that perspective, I wish more people did go to college because of the fact that we live in the age of spin right now, man. Like people can just say whatever the hell they want to say. Um, and get away with it because nobody calls them out on this shit. Um, so for me, it's like I feel better protected against the people that are trying to take advantage of us in this world because I've gone to college and because I've been trained in that mindset to critically think about things. Um, the other benefit to it is the community part of it. One of the things I really, really, really miss is being in class with people that are like-minded, that want to learn the same things as you. Um, so right away you feel more connected with a group of people that are around you. Um, you're moving towards a common goal. Um, but the other thing is everything is open and worth exploring. There's no once we start working and we work a job, anybody's worked a job where you just feel beat down, like fuck, this sucks, like it's the grind. Um, it's the complete opposite when you're in college because things are open, things are worth exploring, you don't have all the answers, and that's a good thing. Um, so from that perspective, the community part of it, I still to this day miss it. I really do, Um, it's been nice on Facebook debating people, uh, from my business fraternity about what's going on with the whole GameStop thing, because it's like, man, I feel like we're
You
we're
have that
bouncing ideas
camaraderie.
off of each. Yeah, we have the camaraderie. We're bouncing ideas off of each other, and on top of it too, it's like if you have a disagreement with somebody, it's like it's not a personal. You don't
Mhm.
resort to personal attacks. It's like no, I want to hear your side of it. Like I might think it's a stupid idea, but I don't think you're a stupid person for having that
Mhm.
idea. It's to me there needs to be a lot more of that. Like we can't get anything accomplished right now because we don't have that type of open dialogue without taking things as a personal attack on people. Um, so it's a space where you can have those type of discussions. And the other thing too is college to me it's about deprogramming you. Um, when when we go through grade school, we're indoctrinated, man. Like there's so many things that once I went to college and you start to pick things apart that you learned before and you realize like wait a minute here, this shit ain't jiving anymore. Like when I kind of pull back the curtain on this a little bit, like this ain't the shit that was being taught to us. I think I talked about this last week or the week before about like how it always stuck in my mind, like why in sixth grade did the teacher ask us what do we want to be when we grow up?
Mhm.
And the only two answers that were supposedly available, because that's the only two answers that everybody gave, was either every kid
Doctor
was
or
gonna
a lawyer.
doctor or lawyer. That's it. Like, like wait a minute here. So to me, there's a lot of indoctrination that happens through grade school and through high school um, that needs to be challenged, and it never gets challenged in the workplace. Are you kidding me? You're in an environment where somebody's trying to make a buck, and we've already said that earlier about how like they'll do whatever it's in their best interest to do whatever the hell they can do to make that buck. So the shit that they're telling you is probably not in your best interest, and probably not even true to begin with. Um, So for me, it's kind of like taking away the brainwashing. I'm gonna say a word right now, and I want you to, tell me, do you have a positive or negative view of this word? You ready for it?
Yep.
Communism.
Negative.
Same here.
Mhm.
Negative. When I
You mean it's
studied
not positive?
economics, what's that?
You mean it's not positive?
There's positive aspects. No, there's positive aspects of it, but to me,
Vladimir, down
that
in the back.
I was
Sorry.
never um, I was never shown both sides of the story. You know how anytime that there's an argument, there's
Oh
two
yeah.
sides to every story, right?
There's always two
It's like
Mhm.
sides to
it's
a
you've
quarter. Yeah.
yeah, you've only heard one side of the story. So for me, I didn't even want to learn anything. I wanted nothing to do with communism when I learned about it in college. Like, why the hell would I want to learn about this shit? Like, why would I want to learn about this? I already know it's a negative thing. And then when you actually pick it apart and you understand it for what the philosophy is and the ideology behind it, I'm like, honestly, this looks a little bit better than the system that we have right now. And that's not saying like I'm not a communist. I don't think that we should be communism, but there are some benefits to it. There are some things that we can learn from it, and to just basically write it off. To me, it does ourselves a disservice, and to me, further proves my point that I was indoctrinated into believing that don't ever go down this road. It's always bad, and it's always going to be negative. It's the same thing with socialism. Socialism is the biggest debate right now, right? With
That's the
with
recent
economic theory.
communism.
Yeah, it's the recent. It's like, oh my, what are you, a socialist? Like first of all, do you even know like what socialism is? Like, and second of all, like, have you done the due diligence to compare it to what we currently have? And see if there are benefits. Um, it takes the world away from being binary. Like it takes the world away from being either this or that, or this is good and this is bad, and it allows you to kind of see both sides of the argument. I think that's why so many things don't move politically speaking, because of the fact that there never is a happy medium. It's either you're on one side or the other, and if you're on the other side, I'm never going to listen to you. You're an automatic idiot. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make everybody know that you're an idiot. Like, the long-term result of that is like nothing ever gets explored, nothing ever gets accomplished. So for me, that's the biggest part of my experience in college, was to be able to critically think, and to be able to, look at things from a different perspective. Um, I don't, you know, dating somebody outside of my religion and outside of my culture, I would never do that in high school. I wouldn't even think of that. Are you kidding
Mhm.
me? But now I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Not only do I want to do it, but I want to learn that person, my girlfriend's perspective. I want to understand, how she was brought up, what their values are, what their beliefs are, and I don't see it as a challenge against my beliefs. I see it as an opportunity to learn, and to get, closer connected to somebody. I think that's the other byproduct of it, is you will have a better connection with people because of it, because you have more of an open mind. You're willing to see, and understand people's experiences, because you have that critical thinking mindset. Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's worth it. But to TJ's point, yeah, there's some shit going on in terms of how much they're charging for it, the operational side of it, like that stuff sucks. But the best teachers were definitely college professors. I still talk to a couple of them, and still, value every single second I had around them. Oh, here I can read here. Who is it? Beartown Crack? Is that Crack Daddy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay.
To anyone
Oh, yeah, I'm
checking,
sorry. I'm
so
making
so
a.
to anyone listening and not seeing this, we are live on Twitch, and we are taking questions from our followers that are currently here. And just to recap on Crack Daddy here, Beartown Crack, check him out on Twitch. He streams Call of Duty all the time and some other games. But Derek's his name, and he said, think about it. You go to college, take out a small loan to finish. You graduate, and now you have a student loan to repay. For example, TJ leaves high school and starts working offshore, and in 4 years, TJ owns a home and has created a foundation. But you're going to college, your life is just started. Now you have a decent job and owes Sally Mae. Um, I it is like you had said previously about it is you're paying for an experience, and going with your point, Jerry, how you said that you have to learn to learn. I do feel everything always falls back to me playing music, and I always think if you want to be a musician, you have to want it, but you have to understand that there's several aspects to wanting it. There's the practicing, there's the fundamentals, the training of your hands, or whatever part of your body you're using to play an instrument. This is just my example. There's to understand all the fundamentals of it. Sure, you could go to a sped up version and they can say, here's a guitar, here's how you tune it, here's how you play a C chord, here's how you play a G chord. Now we just play the beginning of a song. All we need is one more letter, the G, and now you're playing every hit song for the last, beginning of time. Or you could go to a different experience where you're learning all the fundamentals about the guitar and how the guitar is made and why this type of guitar wood sounds different than this guitar would. If what instead of just going to play a C, an F, and a G, then you could learn the fundamentals of which notes actually create the foundation of any of the major chords, the minor chords, the pentatonics, the major sevenths, augments, yada yada yada. So, I mean, I guess it does kind of boil down to what you want. Do you want more of a sped up version, or do you want to know all about the meat and the potatoes? But I guess that's kind of hard to determine what job requires a fast track and which career path requires that full that full understanding of it. However, I don't feel that they. I mean, obviously, if you're getting more knowledge from this group on the right, you're paying more money because you're getting more in depth training on that type of a career. And I know that they do try to take different classes and put them together for like speech class for learning to do speeches for like a business job. That makes sense. Again, why do you have to go and why do you have to learn this music class if you're there to learn business management? I don't know. So
I had to
so
take one of those
that's the
music
same thing.
classes, music appreciation they called it, and
Okay.
it's music for non-music majors basically. And yeah, you are required to take a lot of those classes if you go to college that don't fall in line uh, with your department or degree that you're getting in, but they still want you to have that.
Elective, is that the word?
Yeah,
Uh,
elective. Yeah, elective. Well, it's actually more elective is something that you take that's not technically
oh,
required.
like an
Um,
extra. Okay,
these are
like
still,
music classes.
these are
Yeah.
still, yeah, these are still
Okay.
required. Um, but
My
they're like
bad.
but they're general. Um, I just want to know what do you have against Johann Sebastian Bach, man?
Absolutely
I
nothing.
know, right? What do you have against
Absolutely
broke?
nothing.
The
What's wrong with
what about
broke?
Absolutely
Han,
nothing.
I'm broke.
Whoa,
what about
listen,
Han, what
listen.
about Handel, man? What about
Linda,
Handel? Handel's got
listen.
some good.
I am not knocking it.
Man,
You're talking to a
Broke
guy.
is one of the best
You are
times
talking
out
about the
there.
guy that in a split second will tell you want to make a major chord, you have to take the first note, the third note, and the fifth note in the pattern to make a major note. Plus, you can add your octave. That all started
yeah.
way back when, and when people like Sebastian Bach and all them, they were taking notes and they were doing the most beautiful, amazing arrangements and things. Uh, and it was really sad that a lot of people didn't really get to experience a lot of the things for some of them until after they were gone. So, so thanks for asking the question, but my answer is I have nothing against him. I
Yeah,
just was. I was just there
I
to learn
just
how to make business, decisions, and how to think of financial things a lot better, and not, when my college was already starting off baroque, if you will.
Nice, nice. I just like for me, I had the opposite experience, man. Like I loved my music appreciation class. Like I loved learning, but that's just because I'm a music nerd. Like you know me, dude. Like I love picking apart stuff. Like I love like hearing the bass line. I love hearing the drum pattern. Like how all that combines together. Like
All the
I guess I'm
ambience
just
and
yeah,
everything.
I'm just a deep thinker in that perspective. And to me, it's like oh cool. Like I get to see how they did it in the past and what they were able to accomplish given what they knew at the time. um,
I think
so yeah.
I think that portion of it I really found interesting, and it was able to keep my attention. I think my problem with it was is just instantly when they're like it's mandatory that you go into this many concerts, and you have to do this and that, and mandatory this many hours to get your
Yeah,
credit. I'm like, dude, I'm already stressed for time. Like you only got so much time in an hourglass, and you don't want to waste it by things that
sure. No,
you
no,
don't
and
want to comprehend.
I'm with you there. They're like to me, their
And why?
calculus
But
has
why was
no
I going to be paying
calculus
my
has no
money for
purpose.
them to make me do something I didn't want to do, to
Yeah,
learn about some shit that I didn't care to learn about? I guess was that. Um, but
yeah,
again, the more you know, the more you know. It showed me. You know what it showed? It showed my unwillingness to do the grind, to really learn. To if I wanted that credit, this
well,
on that aspect of it, I guess I haven't thought of it until right now. That just shows at that time that I was not willing to put into work. I was not willing to put in the time to earn that credit, to go towards that. So yeah, there's that.
yeah, a part of college too, for future employers when they look at you, they call it it's the signaling effect. It signals that you are able to get through a system, that you are able to, go through a system that starts at point A and ends up at point Z, and you're able to successfully navigate that, which means, all businesses are run in that perspective of, we're going to start here and there's a step-by-step process to get to where we want to be. If you've already shown that you can do that at a high level, you're a lot more marketable, as opposed to somebody that they're just
Basically, you have
like,
educated uh, seniority because
yeah, you've made
You've
it through a
already gone
system.
through you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've made it through a system successfully.
I mean
You were means
that'll
you were
make sense.
dedicated and you were willing to learn and open to new things, basically.
Hmm. To just do what the job required. You have to do this. You have to learn this to get this credit to go towards this degree. Makes sense.
Now, to crack Daddy's question here, why not just have trade career school? I'm all for that too. If people truly just want like, hey, I want to work and that's it, that's awesome. Like trade schools, like absolutely. Like why waste your time? Why take a calculus class, of something that you're never gonna lose, never gonna use? Not only are you sacrificing time, you're sacrificing money. Both of those things you can't get back for something that you don't get a return on investment for it. So from that perspective, yeah, absolutely. Trade schools, 100%. I'm all for them, man. It's to each their own. If somebody has an inquisitive mind like me that always wants to know like the ins and outs of things, like college is the perfect spot for me. If I don't go to college, I'm always going to have that nagging in the back of my head. Well, why is this a certain way? If this shit is going on in the economy right now, and I don't have a fundamental understanding of what the hell's going on, that's going to cause anxiety in my life. That's going to cause like, fuck, like this is something I don't have control over. And that increases my anxiety. Like I feel powerless. But for some people, it's like I don't give a fuck what's going on in the economy, man. As long as I got a paycheck, I'm cool. Like that's awesome too. It's I guess it's just to each their own.
Also, if we don't have an understanding of things like the economy, people like that are like these hedge funds can take advantage of us without us even knowing.
Yeah, yeah. That's
I
like I
mean,
said, that's the reason I chose accounting, man, is because I don't want somebody taking me for a ride. Not the good kind.
yeah.
Nice.
We go get in, fuckers. We're going to the store.
Buckle up, buckaroos.
Uh, so, I know we've been chatting about this for a while. So, but we had started with a couple topics before we had hit record. So I will start it with this. Uh, my mom used to always say that men were like snowstorms. You never know how long they're going to last and how many inches you're going to get. Um, rest her soul. I miss her much. But that brings me to what we were talking about earlier about the Windy City with snow. You said you guys are bracing for another storm. That
Yeah.
we got cold here. Like it got cold. It was like I think I went to work. It was like 3 degrees actual temp, which it hasn't been that cold here for a while. You guys are experiencing way colder than that, where both of you are. Is that correct, or have been?
Yeah, it was pretty nasty for a little bit. It's still been under freezing for the last 3 weeks. I think we're going to have a heat wave coming up here, to where some of this snow might melt. Keep in mind that heat wave is like 35 degrees or 40 degrees.
Which always feels so damn good when it hits. You're like,
Like roll the windows down.
oh.
Yeah, put on the shorts, get up, and short sleeve t-shirts,
You're like, it's
all
only
that.
37. Feels damn good.
And open a window.
Um,
Hmm.
how
No,
much?
we got about 7 inches. So me
Seven
being a man,
inches.
that's about 3.
Yes, that's right. Terrible liar. So you guys got 7 inches of snow. When was that? In the
No, we
very
got we
recent.
got we got a total of about like 3 on the last snowstorm a couple days ago, but it's all pretty much almost gone now.
That's where it's
Because
kind of.
it jumped up over 32 shortly after, and then got a little bit of rain mixed in. So
So I haven't really gone down the rabbit hole of what's happening in Texas too involved, but I do know that it's Texas. They're not equipped or not prepared to handle this kind of weather that they're going through, where it's so cold the first time since like 1949 or something, or 1959.
no,
I
2011 they had the same problem.
was it
Hmm.
2011. They
Yeah.
um, I know they said that it was catastrophic because it was
Hmm.
so cold. They weren't equipped for it, and because like again, we have all the snow plows, we have all the
Yeah.
crap and the salt, and I know the other places that have different things that they need. But if you need snow removal once every 40 years or 20 years or whatever the case may be, you're probably not going to have a whole bunch of it on standby ready to go and in proper
Yeah.
order, even if you do. Um, so what I brought it up. I find it very interesting that I haven't got to read the articles yet today or yesterday, because yesterday was band practice all day, and uh, today's been working on some stuff, but about how these electric companies are charging people a
It's
ridiculous
one
amount of.
one
One
electric
electric
company.
It's only
company.
one company.
Hmm.
Uh, so what's kind of going on with that? They just decide they're going to raise their rates right now because of an emergency time, or is it coincidental? Like
It's supply and demand. There's less supply, so the price has gone up on it.
because they're not
So
since they're not shooting energy over here because this area is not working. They're still using over to this group of residents or whatever, but now they're just
they
going to
just
charge
don't
them.
have they just don't have enough to go around.
Yeah, they put a lot of their grid is on wind power.
Well, I
Um,
think I think it's like 15 to 20% during the winter
yeah.
time is wind.
Holy crap!
They dropped it down during the winter. I thought it was year round.
It changes by season. I think it's like 25 to 30%
Oh, okay.
uh the
I thought
majority
they
of the
didn't
year,
have the
but this
capacity to because of that, because they put so much of
yeah, oh yeah,
that
that's
power to the
yeah.
wind.
So there you go. There's an example of the fucking spin I was talking about, man. And so they're bitching and moaning. They're using this as a platform to be against, renewable energy, which you think about, the majority of oil companies are down in Texas. Is it in their best interest if clean energy starts to gain some traction?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. They're losing out money the more wind turbines go up. So what do you think the problem? Who do you think they're going to blame right
Oh
away
yeah.
when shit goes wrong? Oh, it's clearly these guys here. But again, when you look at the data
But
tells
it's
me it's like
one company that has
15
the
to
control over
20%.
the whole area.
Yeah, that's the problem. So that's always the problem. The ultimate problem with capitalism is the ultimate problem, or the ultimate issue is eventually, as competition takes each other out, you get to the point where there's only one left standing. And when you have one left standing, you have a monopoly. And when you have a monopoly, that monopoly can do whatever the fuck they want to do if they're not
Mhm.
regulated. They could charge whatever price they want. They can withhold the supply if they want to, which will increase the price of it and make a quick buck, which is exactly what happened with Enron, with the biggest uh, accounting scandal in American history. That's the shit that happened. It was a monopoly. They weren't doing good. Their numbers weren't looking good, so they just reduced the supply. Um, and the end result of it was is they were purposely causing huge power outages in communities so they can make more money. Like that's when people argue for socialism, and I agree with that argument, is when you get to a monopoly, that's when shit can get really, really fucked up. When you don't have competition. I'm all for free market. I'm all for capitalism if there's competition. But when
Yeah.
there's not competition, that's when you start to see that type of shit. It's like the game monopoly, dude. Like it's all cool until somebody has all the freaking hotels, and like it's good to be that person, but everybody else,
Yeah.
that game ain't fun at all. Like it's like real life, man. It's the same shit.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts, man.
Maybe that's why I
Yeah.
didn't like that game so much.
Well, yeah, because I mean, yeah, there can only be one winner that way. Um,
Uh,
I
I
just
couldn't play it because it's too nice.
yeah, I just
Like, ah,
couldn't
you don't have to pay me. You're good.
I just couldn't believe reading it said like their normal for like so much time was like $500 or $400 and some dollars, and now it's like $1,400 or even more than that. I just
during a time
during
when they
this
don't when
time,
they don't even have potable water, they don't even have
Yeah.
drinkable
Yeah.
water. They're telling
They're
these
being
people
told to snow.
they're telling they have them under a boil order.
Yeah.
Make sure you boil your water before you drink it. Uh,
They're telling them to do it
okay,
with the snow too. They're telling them
okay.
if you run out of water, go out, grab snow, melt the snow down, and then boil it.
Well, think about how stupid that is.
Yeah.
They're telling them to boil water. Um,
With no electricity.
I don't have electricity. What the fuck am I? How am I gonna
Yeah.
boil water? Like what the? Oh, it's crazy, dude. It's crazy. Like you can't make this shit up, dude. You can't make this shit up.
no, it's like it reminded me of those guys that went and bought all that Purell, and the hand sanitizer stuff, and they drove around and filled up a U-Haul, and then they tried selling it on Amazon for like way crazy prices.
Exorbitant amount of money.
Yeah, and then they shut them down. It's like, are they? When are they going to be able? When are they going to be able to do that to that energy company?
Well, deregulations made it so that company can be a monopoly.
He's, he says, "Look at our daughter. We raised her." Sorry,
Yeah.
Uncle. Sorry,
Anybody,
Uncle Craig.
anybody that like toots the horn and buys into the propaganda of deregulation, I always tell them like, go learn the story of Enron. Like, learn your history before you just swallow that pill, because you're digging your own fucking grave by promoting that propaganda that's being
Yeah.
shoved down your throat. Like,
Well,
ugh.
I mean, essentially by deregulating, you're just giving the power from the government to the corporations. That's all you're doing. You're giving them the power to do with whatever they want.
You're
If you
you're
take away
you,
the minimum wage, if you take away minimum wage, leaving it up to the people that don't even want to pay you minimum wage as it is. But the only reason they pay you that is
Because they
because of the
have to.
regulation that they have to. And people
yeah,
like
yeah. Otherwise,
people
they'd be
argue it all the
pennies.
time. Oh, if you deregulate, it'll make it fair. Everybody, no, they're just going to pay you this. They're going to pay everybody $2 an hour or $1 an hour, whatever, will be just enough for you to survive and just enough for you to have enough energy to come to work,
That
and
propaganda has
work
been
there.
working for decades too. The laborers do not have the power that they used to
No,
back in the day, dude. And the worst part about it is the people that it benefits the most, those are the people that are like, oh, unions are horrible. Why would we ever want unions? Union people are, I have half of my family is in the elevator union, and I hear them bitch about it like, oh, well, the guys that run a union, man, they make all this money and they don't do shit, and unions are bad because because of those guys. It's like, okay, you can make the case for any job or any position. Like that guy doesn't do his job. Like that doesn't mean that that business is horrible. That just means that that guy sucks. Like you're 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 giving away your power because of one person's behavior. Like that's disgusting. And
yeah.
the only power that we have against big corporations is our labor.
Hmm.
If we don't give them our labor, they're fucked,
Yeah.
and they know that.
Hmm.
So what do? They push all kinds of anti-union propaganda on you. Amazon's getting dinged like crazy for this shit.
Yeah.
People are leaking things online about their anti-union videos that they're exposing their middle management to, and how the things
Frito
that
Lay
they do to
has
make
those
sure.
too.
Yep. No, all the big corporations do. They don't make the amount of money that they did with having a union. Plain and simple.
We had one district, I think, in Frito Lay that had a union. It was in Connecticut, and the amount of hours worked between the Connecticut district and my district was vast. We had some Connecticut guys come up and help us when this whole thing popped off because we had a bunch of our staff, a bunch of people went on leave, and they came in and they were like, "Wow, you guys are working 4 stores a day. We only work 3 stores a day." They're like, "How many hours are you guys doing?" "No, we don't work over a certain amount of hours." Like, "How much are you guys making?" "We make way more than that." Like, it was the stories were vast. They were like, "I don't want to go back out there. They work like crazy. Why are we going to go out there?" They told their union reps, they're like, "I don't want to go out there. Why am I going to go out and work over there when I'm doing twice as much work?
Sure.
Doing an extra store's worth of work and driving 2 hours, you know, like on top of
They,
that."
and here's the other thing too, like unions create standards, especially
Mhm.
when it comes to the trade unions. Um, I worked at Home Depot for 8 years. I worked at Menards for 2 years, so I got a decade of working in
Mhm.
home improvement retail. The stories that I hear about, you know, people that buy a new house and they, look in the walls and look at the electric that's been done. Like some of the stories, it's like, dude, your house is like a second away from burning down, like you losing everything. And if there weren't regulations and unions, why would I ever spend more money to make sure that things are up to snuff? Like the second I get paid for it, my hands are clean. Hey, that's on you now. Like you're the one that screwed it up. It's like, well, like wait a minute here, like fuck. Like you're the one that installed all this shit. You didn't do it, up to code, so
Mhm.
from a consumer perspective, like, yeah, you're getting what you paid for. Hey, you're paying a little bit less than you would have paid, somebody that is union. But what's the ultimate sacrifice is your fucking house is at risk, man. Your
Yeah.
life may be at risk. When we look at uh, my family's in the elevator union. If they cut corners with elevators,
Hmm.
that's not a good thing.
No,
Like
they cut
not a good
corners
thing
on
at
my
all.
elevators. I'd be pissed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I'm in
I,
that thing
I'm
every day.
sure. I'm sure those jobs have their ups and their downs.
But I'll bump.
the company that my brother works for, that's their slogan is servicing life's ups and downs.
I love it. I love it. I love
That's
it.
Brilliant.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. I worked
Uh,
for actually. Let's see here. I think the last job that I worked that had union was Verizon 411. I
Nice.
remember that it was like the weirdest thing for me when I first started working there because I'm like, why do I got to pay these dues to to this union? What the hell is the union really? So I did a lot of research at the time and what their role is, and it is really fascinating um, that they how they're able to really represent their clients and the union members themselves. Um, Near here, there's a big company. It was called GE, and then it was bought out and to Wabtec. And I know that's like the big union job around here. So all the people that work there, like you know, the big thing was always they always make way more money than everybody else, and they sit there and they just kind of spin a broom or a mop at work, and they're making all this money. Um, I've never been in the business, and so I don't know of how their business was actually ran at the time. But I do know that you see them talk about the union all the time and how they are fighting for this right or they're fighting for that, and I think it's awesome, to see that. Um, but again, I haven't really worked many jobs where a union was part of their everyday service, because I'm sure that they have to have it worked out with the unions themselves to be able to have them there taking care of the business. As the union, I guess I just don't really. I'll have to educate myself on that before I try to make any type of a point or question. But um, again,
Well,
it's
look
back
at
to
look at
supply and demand. Everything's supply, everything's demand, even when it comes to
it's
that.
all it's all economics, man. It's
Mhm.
all economics. Look at professional sports. They all have players unions, right? They're always fighting for their salaries. If they didn't have a union, those guys would get paid $100, man. Like they wouldn't get paid the money that they are. Now, people can get into discussion of whether or not they deserve the millions of dollars that they get. You could have that discussion until you're blue in the face. Anytime that you get a subjective debate like that, you're never going to come to
Yeah,
a conclusion because the question always boils down to, well, who decides who deserves, what? Like there's no way of deciding that. But like for them, like if 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 these owners pay their players less money, it's in their best interest to pay them less money, right? Shit. If I don't have to pay $1 million to this player, if I only pay him $1,000 as opposed to $1 million, guess what? I'm making 999,000 dollars, when I or more dollars than I would have. So it's they have their purposes, man. And again, the only way that we can fight back against big corporations is with our labor.
yeah,
That's the only skin we have in the game. If everybody just stops working, they're screwed. Ain't like the boss is going to go in there and do the job of 100 people. It's not possible. I mean, I don't know too many bosses that would go and do the job of one person if they lost it. Look at fucking Ted Cruz skipping town when his people needed him the most.
well,
It's
he was
it,
just going to drop his kids off in Cancun and then come back.
dude, what a turd. What a turd. He trying to use his kids as an excuse?
God, he needs to be
Oh
dragged out to the
God.
street and just
I was
fucking
tr
left
I
there.
was trying to be a good dad.
Yeah.
Oh, you kidding me?
Yeah,
Oh, that dude's disgusting. And then I love the fact, and I'm not the biggest fan of her. I think she's a little too wild for my taste. But AOC, his biggest nemesis. They are always back and forth. What the hell did she do while he skipped town? She fucking raised millions of dollars for fucking relief for
yeah,
people in Texas. Like you cannot write this shit, dude.
yeah,
Like this shit is like it's insane, man. It's absolutely insane. Like the person that you hate the most, she has no business. She has no business doing that. She
yeah,
nothing to worry about, or no vested interest in it. If anything, she should be like, fuck you. Like, why would I
yeah,
ever help Texas? Your leadership sucks, and he attacks me. And by the way, like it's from my perspective, and I'm talking for,
Mhm.
as her. From my perspective, you tried to have me killed, and she still went out of her way to make sure
Mhm.
that his people were taken care of. Like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. If he gets voted in again, like,
He will. He will. I haven't any
I
doubt on it.
like, I just
I don't.
like
Again, it goes to the
that'll
sides.
show.
Unless they have somebody that totally, totally just outshines him next term. You know what I mean? Like they would have to have like I can't even think. It would they would have to have an exemplary record. I mean, like there are people who are just going to say, I'm going to stick with what I know. He made a mistake. That's how they'll spin it in their own mind to re-vote him in.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. That just shows you how well their propaganda works, to where a leader can get away with doing something like that, and the people will still fucking follow it and
Mm-hmm.
believe every word that he says. Like, that'll just tell you right there how much
Oh yeah.
how indoctrinated people are.
Well, I think
Yeah,
the people must, the people that keep believing, they must just feel that they would lose more by not having the faith in it. But regardless, it, those big type of decisions and things, it's like it reminds me of like Pence when he went on vacation. Uh, yeah, I can't remember exactly what was going on there, but it was right towards the end. They're like, oh, you got all these problems going on, and where's he at? He's sitting on vacation, taking a break. Well, yeah, you know, it's like I get it. You need a break, but don't you think you should probably be focused on what's going on right now and get it faced and over with? Rather than dragging your feet out. Another prime example, Le'Veon Bell. Remember when? What was it? Was it the Super Bowl or whatever that he wasn't going to participate in? So he was down in Florida on a yacht or something, fucking posting videos of shit. Him not caring. Do you remember that? Uh, because his body's a vessel and he wants to take
Hmm.
care of it forever. So he
yeah.
keeps getting tossed around and changed from team to team to team. They said that they should take Ben Roethlisberger and trade him to the Patriots. Like, what the fuck? Like, right now, I don't know. I don't know what Pittsburgh's going to do or any of them. But right now, we all know one thing: Tom Brady's daddy. There, I said it.
He is. He's daddy.
He's daddy.
Hold on, I record. Yeah, I am recording that. Okay, cool. That will be on the first trailer I do for Sprangboro Sessions.
we were 5 minutes in the podcast and I was talking shit.
Oh my God, dude! So I caught some
Two
people trying to.
together, like the first 5 minutes that we were into the first episode of you talking shit, and then I put together.
Whatever, dude. Back to your point, Jerry.
I caught some people trying to trash Patrick Mahomes. Um, whatever. He lost. The history is going to tell us whether or not he's a phenomenal quarterback. But they're all people are like, oh well, he's 0-2 against Tom Brady in the playoffs. Clearly Tom Brady's the GOAT. It's like, well, take a step back here. If that's going to be your barometer for
Yeah,
success,
no, that's not a barometer.
What's Tom Brady's record against Eli Manning?
Mm-hmm.
0-2 in the playoffs.
0-2 in the
Like,
playoffs.
if you're going to use that as your basis
No, that's not a.
for
That's not a.
argument, that's a horrible
No.
argument. Because
That's the thing with football.
then basically
Like,
you're saying that Eli Manning is the GOAT. And we
yeah.
all know that ain't the fucking
No,
case.
no.
Now, Crack Daddy, he says, he says,
You have to go into your settings and change your VODs so it'll save your game plays.
You want to talk me through that later? But
Yeah.
Creator dashboard. See, I'm terrible with that. I've just been using OBS.
All right, I'll walk you through it.
But
later.
we're gonna do that for sure. But Crack Daddy, he's a fellow black and yellow, so that means I got this guy right here. in the messages, I'm curious. Do you think we should get rid of Big Ben? Do you think we should keep him? Uh, I'm curious to see what you have to say on that. But me personally, I think
who do you have to back him up though?
right now,
I don't know enough. Like I don't know enough. Do
right
you have
now
like
we got Mason
a young
Rudolph.
quarterback that you have somebody that you're developing to eventually take his spot? Because he's getting up there in age,
Oh,
man.
he's old like us, you know.
Yeah.
But he's
You
a
say he's
smart.
old like Brady.
But he's an
You say it.
athlete. You know, their bodies
He
go
ain't
through a
that
lot
old.
more. Their bodies go through a
Brady's my
lot.
age.
No, in a normal human being, yes, they are not old. But
No.
in an athlete who
Hmm.
exerts a lot of energy and turmoil on their bodies. Um,
It's not easy to go.
oh, here we go. It's not.
There's your answer.
That's right. Fucking deuces, Big Ben. But who
We
do
got an
we?
exclusive here first.
But
Roethlisberger's getting the boot.
he says TJ U50. hey, I just wanted to tell you guys we just broke a record, including us. We got 6 viewers. Holla! Welcome to the
That
show.
too.
But
Oh yeah, we got somebody
but
else now.
but right now we don't. I mean, all we have is Duck and Mason Rudolph. The last that I knew. I see that they're scouting some college people. Um, Again, I'd have to brush up and go down the information highway and look into that and see where we're going for that. But I do know right now
Cause
we have the 2 guys on the team. They are already
okay,
there. And didn't we just pick up? Oh, crack, help me out here, fool! Did we just pick somebody up from?
well the reason I asked that is because Bears fans, they're always quick to be like, oh, Trubisky needs to go and this and that. And it's like, okay, but what who's going to be quarterback then? Like what do you have in mind for uh his replacement? Like it's easy to say that somebody should go, but who's going to take that person's place? Like
Well, that's true.
that's why I
To
asked that
that
question.
caliber of dependability, because let's be honest, Roethlisberger, his whole career, you pretty much you already know what to expect from him because he's done it time and time and time and time and time again. So Mason Rudolph and Duck, they had their opportunities, um, and they did okay, but they were definitely no Big Ben. So who's going to take the role? That's a great question. He says, "Oh, we just lost the heart of our offensive line." Yes, um, was it Pouncey and someone both retired, didn't they? Then there's something going on with the Texan Watt. Was it JJ Watt?
Hmm.
I see that they're trying to pick him up on a couple of different teams because he's like his brothers. Um, Online is important. See Chiefs. Oh, whatever, man. Here we go. Here we go.
No, it is. It's
It's
very
awesome.
important, dude.
It's
That's the
awesome.
reason why they got destroyed, man. Their offensive line sucked.
Yeah,
They had injuries, but I mean,
Oh, my heart.
you want to, people wanted to trash Patrick Mahomes. It's like, dude, any quarterback that you put in front of a beat up
Yeah.
freaking Swiss cheese offensive line is gonna suck.
yeah.
They
Weren't
put
they
it.
It's the
down
They,
same.
like
they put
seven
It's the same
or
thing with the
they were
Bears,
down
man.
like 7 or 9 players or something like that,
they put a speed bump in front of them. That was all they did.
and they
Yes,
had to
yes,
shuffle around
exactly,
the players to fill different positions and stuff like that.
Mhm.
exactly. That dude had to freaking throw passes like parallel to the ground with his body parallel to the ground, man.
It
Like
was like
that.
trying to block bullets with a fucking pillow shield.
I got it.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, and then Craig, you can back me up. I mean, we were 11-0. We were 11-0. We should have been sitting there saying, "Do you remember that time we played Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl that year of 2021 and we stuffed them?" Nope. We get almost to the end and just can't pull it together. But when you're down players, you're down all that stuff. It does hurt. Oh man, that one hurts so bad. But see, yeah, Brady, good for you. Motherfucker. Motherfucker.
Doesn't feel heartfelt at all.
I feel Mahomes. Uh, we are going to see over the course of the next, several years of his career, what he brings to the table to try and take over on that title. He definitely has a lot of potential to do that. Um, as soon as they get a fucking line in front of them that they're healthy again.
Yeah.
I always used to dog the Chiefs, man, just because that's what everybody does. They like this team to dog that. But when we were talking to Justin all the time, and he was always talking about going to all the games all the time. It's like, man, he's spending all this money to go watch this team not do very good. And then they pulled together an awesome team. And then when they went on that first run, it was just like watching it was magical. And then it makes me wonder in my mind the type of person Patrick Mahomes, because I think of that story of watching the Michael Jordan thing on YouTube or on Netflix and all them, and he was talking about if they lost to a team and he felt it was because of one person, that person might not have even said a comment to him that he heard. But because in his head he heard that person say it to him this certain way, then he spent the next 365 ish days focused on just outplaying that person. And the rest of the team is going to pay the price. The whole staff's going to pay the price because it's taking it out on that one guy.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or if those guys, if they have that same kind of mentality, or what they do to keep them focused on. I mean, obviously, money's money. Money can persuade people to do a lot of things, but
Well, they did a documentary type thing with Tom Brady already a few years back, didn't they?
I'm not sure.
Oh, I saw something. I thought they did something with Brady that was like a day in the life of kind of thing where they were like interviewing him and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on that, but I am curious to what goes through those type of guys' heads and what their routines are. Maybe I should look it up, see if they have any of that kind of information. Um, just because I love seeing things that motivate people, because you always try to find things that motivate you. Because if you start to look at what motivates them, you're already motivated and you already started the process of any type of motion in your own mind or your own heart or your own thought. Uh, I've been a slack ass on all fronts except for jamming. I've been playing Rocket League the last few days, but I
Mhm.
wasn't playing it for a while because I've just been focused on the music. Uh, right now, what's inspiring you and giving you some focus on some of those type of things, Jerry, outside of the podcast?
What am I focused on, or what?
Yeah,
What
what's giving you motivation to keep, to for your everyday right now? Like I know you. All right, prime example. You're constantly working on things to better your personal fitness business model. What motivates you to even want to do that?
Gotcha. Well, a couple things. Like, first of all, I mean, like you said with Mahomes, I mean, there's always money, so money is a motivation. But to me, it's like it's not just money. I want to get married. I want to have kids. In order to do that, I need a more stable income. So, the motivation there is for um, my girlfriend, hopefully soon to be my wife, and hopefully, my kids in the future. Um, so that would, be the number one motivation. Um, Beyond that, the desire to want to continue to learn. I find, he said reconsider.
Crack Daddy for the win. what?
Well played, sir. You get the golf clap on that one. Um, but beyond that, I think it's just like going back to the college talk. I always want to learn more, and to me, I find the body and movement fascinating. I've always um, just wanted to understand like how movement's created, like what's actually going on in the body, like how do we when we're exercising, what impact does that have, what systems are being affected, how do we get better, our body has the ability to get better, what's the best route to doing that. So there's always going to be that drive, that curiosity as to, how do you get better. And I think the motivation there is a survival motivation. I don't want to be the old man that that can't do shit. That has to worry about other people wiping my ass for me. I want to be able to wipe my own ass.
I want to wipe
My
my
whole
own
life.
ass.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
have to wipe my own ass. I want other people to do it for me. Fucking tired of doing
Ah.
that shit. It's a shitty
Well,
job, man. It's a
I
shitty
mean,
job, and I don't want any part of it.
so I would say that fear is actually a motivating
Mm.
factor in that. I see people broken down as they age, and I think of it from a perspective of, if I'm going to work my entire life to get to the point of retirement and I can't enjoy it because my body's broken down, what the hell was the point of all that work? It's kind of stupid. It's a lifetime of you know it's a lifetime of waste, in my opinion, if you can't enjoy it when it's time to enjoy it. And then the other motivation is just my willingness to help people. There's a lot of people struggling out there. I've gone through some crazy struggle in my own life. And that's not to, downplay any struggle that anybody else goes through. If anything, it's to say that, I have empathy for others, and I understand that there's ways that people suffer. Somebody once told me that just because somebody's smiling at you in front of your face doesn't mean that they're having the worst day of their life behind that smile. Um, and anytime that I've been able to show up and help somebody through that, it's always like I've never had more job satisfaction than I have had when I've been able to do that. When you start to see you have a positive impact on somebody else, like, to me, there's no greater feeling, dude, because I know how important it was for me to have people, reach out to help me, whether they consciously did it or subconsciously did it. Like, I knew how valuable that connection and that experience was. I want to be able to provide that for other people. So, um, the better I can be at doing that, to me, it's like, yeah, why wouldn't I want to learn more of that? I wish I had people that were, whether it be more people to help me or whether it be people that were better qualified to help me. I would have gotten through it, what I had to go through a lot faster, a lot easier, with a lot less bumps and bruises throughout the experience. So that's the other motivating factor for me, why I want to continue to study that stuff. So money, family, wife, if I continue to consider it, money, family, and just curiosity and
Be able
a
to help
desire to help
others.
others. Yeah, yeah, that would wrap it up for sure.
What about you, TJ? What's keeping you motivated, bro?
Absolutely nothing.
That's not true, because I see what you've been doing to the podcast stream and stuff like that. You get a lot of enjoyment out of that. What
Yeah, I
motivates you
mean
to
that's
do that? It's a thing, engineering
just
and those
yeah,
type
just
of
trying
things.
new things, learning new stuff. That's pretty much what motivates me. Lately, it's been my focus has been like obviously with my grandmother and stuff, but also with trying to get people more aware of their food banks and what they can do to contribute to the food banks, especially now when where we're at. Uh, like we've been talking about all this whole past year of the COVID. Food banks are, they're struggling because a lot of people don't realize a lot of the stuff they get is from grocery stores. It'll be stuff that's hit the sell by date. So that doesn't mean it's expired, but it's a sell by date. So
Sure.
a lot of the stuff that they get, their canned goods and things like that, come from the supermarket. And you'd be surprised how much of that stuff derives from there. So just trying to remind people to see how get in touch with their local food bank, see if they have the capability to try and donate, help, to give when they can. Don't kill yourself, but if you have the ability to help. See what you can do. Talk with somebody at the local food bank and say, hey, what can I do to help? Um, and yeah, it's that's kind of like my big focus right now.
I think for me, what's keeping me motivated are similar to all them things. My wife and my daughter, they inspire me, and they make me want to push myself to think about things. Uh, my job, uh, I love doing what I do. I love working where I work. Um, I try to strive to do a good job there. Uh, Not to try and do differently or better or worse than anyone else. I'm just trying to give as much as I can to an employer that I appreciate all that they have done for me and my family. On in many ways. But music, I found it really hard to write songs for a long time. Not necessarily getting a writer's block, if you will, because I always have words going through my head and sentences and phrases. And like I said, if I was a superhero, I'd be the punisher. You know, because I just in my head I twist everything. Uh, my mom and my dad have both, at times growing up, they had pointed out, they were like, you can't just look at a Rubik's cube. You gotta look at it and figure out how you can twist it and turn it in your head, to make it make sense. Whether it's all in color perfectly or a different way, as long as it makes sense. So I try to do that with words, and I've been writing songs lately, more focused on, because writing a positive song's kind of hard when you never had to do it before in your life, and all you ever wrote was like songs about, uh, why someone or something might piss you off. Um, it's easy to write about those. But to write about something that you are feeling vulnerable or raw inside, a lot of people are scared to put their emotions or their actual thoughts out. Taylor Swift, I would have never thought about it, but my dad had told me one day, he's like, hey, Jamie, you ever listen to any Taylor Swift songs? I'm like, no. He's like, well, you should definitely listen to her stories. She tells them very differently. So I went and looked at the time, and she said when she's writing a song, she writes it into the perspective of she's having a conversation with one person right at that moment, and this is what she would be telling that person right now, not hypothetically, not a riddle, not this, not that, directly. This is what we would be talking about. Um, and actually, that was a few years ago, and since then, I've really thought about my writing process, and I really think I could just inspire people to not go through so much bullshit to get to what they want as I did. And like, I'm not happy with my whole life, and no one ever is. But if I can make people laugh one time a day, cool. If I can make people just look at me and be like, God, I'm glad I'm not that guy. Then I did that for them too. I just love helping people, man. And so that's what motivates me, even musically. Uh, you would think that when I'm learning all these songs, it's because I want to learn these songs. I don't truly. Most of the time, I just learn it because I don't want to let someone else down. They wanted me to learn the song, Uh, like if Jimmy wants to learn the song, I might like, okay. I know I won't. Well, I won't want to put in the work because I just sometimes I don't want to. But I know if I don't do it, then I'm gonna feel bad I didn't. So that motivates me to learn it. But then being motivated by that person to do that, I know I now have worked on that song or that pattern or that thing that I can share with people out when I'm playing a show, and they can enjoy that, and make them think that about something other than their day to day life, and just have a something to look forward to and to be happy about. Um, So Crack Daddy's causing a stir over here. I can see it. So let's read what he says. He says he aims to put out as much energy or positive energy as possible every day. That's deep. And then he said, Poontang, weed, and money. That's deep too. He said, family and just trying to be the best positive me. And you know what? Truly, the whole time I've known Derek, he's always been that way. Always positive, always smiling, just trying to motivate everybody around. Um, so I could see that as being something that motivates me as well. Um, I'm not gonna read that one. You guys see that?
Yeah, I didn't know our protocol on here. I don't know if that
Yeah,
was inappropriate what I put.
man. These people that are listening to it, they're gonna be like, "What did he say?" Well, that's the question that maybe we'll answer next week, or maybe we won't. Uh, Hope you guys all had a great time. I know I sure have. Is there anything else you guys wanted to bring to the table before we call it for the day? He says
Yeah,
you come with
I'd like to share what a coworker once told me. I'm joking. Uh,
he
no,
said
man,
he
I said
says
enough.
the funk chicks and get paid.
Yeah, I said enough. No, man, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, man, and I just hope everybody stays healthy, stays safe, and stays sane. And to your point, Jamie, hopefully people got something out of this, and hopefully we gave somebody something to look forward to today. I'm grateful for that. So those listening, thank you for giving us that opportunity.
Well, yeah. What about you, TJ? You're muted. Perfect.
So
What? What now?
said it. I spoke my mind.
I'm not saying it again. We're done here. He
No,
said.
I said I have to say the same thing. I mean, thank you all for letting us take up some time in your lives and hanging out with us every week. We appreciate it a lot.
Um, I wanted to say thanks to everybody that was hanging out in the chat room. We'll be here next Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, twitch.tv/Sprangboro. I hope you guys all stay as positive as you can. Keep doing great because that's what you're doing. We've survived this long. Uh, obviously you're doing the best you can. I wanted to say thank you to everybody that throughout all the love for my birthday. And I want to say thanks to all you guys for keeping me motivated and providing me with the tools and different ways to be able to find time to think about things other than myself, if that makes sense. I needed a mental break, and you guys provide that for me. Thank you. Stay happy, stay healthy. Don't be afraid to live your best life. Until next time, deuces.